genre.
Welcome back to the 400th episode of The Doctor's Companion. I'm Cass Fredrickson.
I'm Nick Jimenez.
And I'm Scott Corelli. We are here to celebrate our 400th episode of this show, which is insane.
Mm-hmm.
And, we originally launched in 2009 with a different co-host, then soft rebooted like 40-ish episodes in with a different co-host. And then around episode, I think 100, you guys started coming in, I think, something like that, 100 or 200, I think. I don't remember exactly where, but...
I think it's episode 200 where we have the three of us.
Oh, okay. 200 is the three of us. Okay, yeah. So, yeah, and what's funny is two things. So what we're planning on doing today is another tournament bracket like we did with the holiday specials back in 2020. It was a lot of fun, and so we're going to do that again to celebrate our 400th. And with the second RTD era having begun in earnest this year with the specials, we decided to do a bracket of the first era of Russell T Davies, and specifically his episodes. So any episode that he has an actual writing credit on, we have put into a tournament style bracket, and we'll be narrowing down to find the best RTD1 episode. Again, specifically just the ones that he has a writing credit on. I know if you read like his book about the making of Doctor Who, you find out that he had like a firm hand on a lot of episodes that he's not credited on, but we're not counting any of those. We're just focusing on the ones that he actually took a writing credit on. But yeah, so the funny thing is about that, about this being our 400th episode, is that the show was launched with a reaction to The End of Time. That was our very, very first episode I ever recorded with my original co-host, Randy McKinney, was us reacting to The End of Time. So the very end of the Russell T Davies era of the show, as far as we knew it at the time. And our, the very first episode I did with you guys was a look back at the Matt Smith era of the show. And sort of like going through every single episode and talking about what worked and what didn't work. So, I don't know. I just think it's fun, and it feels very fitting that that's what we're doing for this now 200 episodes into you guys being my co-hosts on this show, which feels insane. 200 episodes.
I
guys.
know. What the heck?
Yeah.
I just don't think about it. It's just numbers.
Yeah. Out of sight, out of mind.
I'm the same way with time. People are like, "Can you believe Mean Girls is 20 years old this year?" I'm like, I don't think about it.
No, I do not, because I don't think about it. That's funny.
It didn't cross my mind once, not a single time. Yeah. So, okay. So last time we did one of these bracket tournaments, we had to set like some, grading criteria, I guess, to start with. So last time, one of those things was like Christmas cheer, stuff like that, holiday cheer.
That could be a quantifier in this one as well if you want.
Yes.
It could, but I think it would give an unfair advantage to a few of these.
Okay.
So what do you guys think the criteria should be here? Because I mean, we've got, I think, like in general, right? Russell would write the premieres, and usually like a couple of random episodes and then the finales. It feels like maybe some of these should be weighted differently than others. I'm curious about what your thoughts are on all of this.
How gay it is. How clever, maybe. How funny.
Clever, funny. Okay.
I don't know. Because I wanted to watch all of these, but I ended up only revisiting a handful. And I think, because most of them are good to great. So I feel like just like an important factor for me when I was watching these was like how much fun I was having.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, it's crazy now, Scott. You mentioned how like full circle it feels to be returning to this one writer after, since 2009 of starting the show. And like, it's crazy when we look back and as the years go by, Russell T Davies may be remembered as one of, if not the, like, major like voice of this whole operation. And like, I too managed to rewatch a few episodes of his before this bracket, and it's crazy how much of like what I associate with Doctor Who in general, like the romance, the kind of saying something about society, the Doctor as this kind of like inspiring romantic figure, and the funny, the how much of that is just RTD.
Yeah. I think one of the criteria. I think one of the criteria too should be how much. I don't know how to quantify this, but I know you guys know what I mean. But how much it feels like an episode of Doctor Who.
Yeah, how Doctor Who it is. Yeah.
Yeah, how
absolutely.
Doctor Who it is, right? Because there are a few of these where you're like, well, this isn't very Doctor Who. You tried something, I don't know. So yeah. Okay. I think that's probably should be a factor. I think
Whoiness.
Yeah, whoiness. That's good. That's good. I think. Oh well, I don't know.
Does it highlight working class blue collar characters?
I don't know that you're going to be able to find one in here that doesn't do that.
Yeah. Even on alien planets.
Yeah, he always finds them. One factor I guess is we should probably take into consideration perhaps is how well it ages, because I think a few of these have aged poorly.
Yes.
And might be, even if they were like all-time classics at the time back in the early aughts, maybe not so much now. And maybe we should take that into consideration as well. So only thing is that, so we have, I believe, what is it? 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. 16 slots. So we're doing 16 stories here on this list. And, obviously season 3 and season 4's finales are kind of 3-parters. Like they're both like soft 3-parters, with season 4 having Turn Left before the finale, which like directly leads into the finale. And then season 3 having Utopia, which directly leads into Sound of Drums, Last of the Time Lords. I have, in order to get the 16 different stories that we needed to fill out this bracket, I had to split off one of those 3-parters, and I chose Turn Left, because it feels a little more standalone, Twilight Zone-y, as its own thing than Utopia does, which is its own episode until like the last 10 minutes. But those 10 minutes are so iconic,
yes,
and so iconically part of the next story that it felt, I don't know. It felt more right to take off Turn Left than it did Utopia. I don't know if you guys agree with that, but
It's fun. It's funny. I was Utopia is one of the episodes that I was able to rewatch before recording this.
Oh yeah.
I went down the list that's why I have my phone out, Scott. As you handily posted the list in our DM, and I'm just gonna scroll up to that. But there it is. I made a point of only watching episodes that I had like little to no immediate memory of.
Okay.
Because I thought about the conversation of like, well, I want to be able to, if I'm just going to be like, oh, I don't remember.
Yeah, right.
Haven't thought about it.
yeah, out of sight, out of mind. So those are the ones that I rewatched, and so Utopia, I'm like, I don't remember any of Utopia, and then but I do remember the 2-part finale fairly well, so I didn't feel the need to go back to that one. But but then I was like, oh yeah, it is technically like this 3-part saga.
Yeah.
Right. And you know, and it has like Jack at the beginning and then he's like with them for the rest of the story. So it really does feel like one kind of block of stories.
Really cool watching it so soon after we covered Journey's End.
Oh, I bet. Yeah, because that was like his first appearance back on the show.
It's almost like a sequel to that.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I think you mean
Parting of the Ways.
Yeah. Parting
right?
of the Ways.
Yeah.
My bad.
Yes.
Parting of the Ways. Yes, the one, the weakest link one.
Right. Okay, so let's get into it. We'll start with our first matchup, which I feel like is going to be pretty difficult. But also, how could you not match these two up? One is literally a sequel to the other one. So that is Series 1's The End of the World and Series 2's New Earth. Or the Cassandra duology.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As the fans call it.
Yeah. So End of the World is the episode where 9 takes Rose to a space station to overlook the destruction of Earth. Earth is reaching its end and the sun is going to like destroy it. And they're there to see it happen. And it's like, Rose gets really shook and then wants chips at the end. There's a tree lady that saves the day by letting herself get caught on fire. 9 very carefully steps through crazy spinning fan blades and almost dies, but uses the force for a second, I guess. I don't know. Yeah, and then we meet Cassandra, the lady who's a piece of a face on a piece of skin, who says moisturize me and etc. So what are your guys' thoughts on The End of the World, the first part of these 2 episodes, I guess?
Well, it's been a while since I saw this because we talked about it on the podcast, I guess, in 2016, you said?
Yeah,
Scott?
something like that.
Yeah, I watched these 2 back to back. These were 2 of the ones that I watched in preparation for this. I still love this one. This one holds up.
Yeah.
I think I enjoy it more every time I watch it.
Yeah. I think I like all of Russell T's like future Earth saga episodes.
Yeah.
I think they're all like really, really good. He's an underrated writer when he talks about like what the future of Earth might look like. He also did that Years and Years show that was like on I think it's on Max, and it's also like kind of soft sci-fi. I mean, these are really sci-fi, but this is like soft sci-fi where it's like each episode is like a few more years into the future of what this family is going through. And yeah, it's really interesting. He's like really good at figuring out I guess like calling where the ball's going to be in the future without going so outlandish with it. But there's still plenty of camp and it's fun. I don't know. Nick, what do you think of The End of the World?
I've been watching this episode again and again since 2005 and I always struggle to remember most of it. It's always just like a fever dream of like, oh, that's right, this is the one with Madam Hooch and and moisturize me and then like the very like YA romance vibes of like taking your first date to like watch her planet die.
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
But like, but you're right though. He is an underrated like world builder, RTD. Because like he creates his own little pocket of the Hooniverse with like the New Earth sector, and you check back in, and there's continuity, and this connects to that, and you're like, oh yeah, this is cool.
Yeah,
It all starts here.
It's really cool. This is also the episode that like made me fall in love with New Who. Because like Rose is fine. We'll talk about it later. But like this was the episode that I was like, oh, okay. Like this is the one that made me lean forward. This episode. So yeah, I'm a big fan of this episode. However, New Earth, this is the one where this is the first adventure with 10. And I think we talked about this at the time, how weird it was that 10's first, like, first real adventure as the Doctor features him getting possessed by someone else and having to not act like himself for a portion of it, and how weird that is in retrospect. But it really shows off David Tennant's acting chops, and I think this is the one with like the cat nurses, and this is the Face of Bo is in End of the World, right? And then he's in this as well.
Yes, yeah. The Face of Bo is introduced in End of the World. He's in the hospital that they're visiting in New Earth, and then there's another one where he shows up.
Right. And yeah, I really like. I think it's the cheesiness of the letting everybody out of their cages or whatever with the medical bags and like steaming everybody healthy again.
Yes.
Like whatever the hell's going on there. It's very cheesy, but it like warms your heart. It feels really good. It feels very Doctor Who to me. And I genuinely believe where the Cassandra story goes when it's like all about her for those like I don't know, there's like a 15-minute sequence with like flashbacks of her and stuff. I think it's some of like the best Russell T Davies stuff. The fact that like he took this throwaway character from another episode and was like, no, I'm going to make you empathize with this monster. Here we go. And it's really well done. And I don't know. I like it. I like her little assistant. Her little weirdo assistant who makes me really sad. He just loves her so much. I don't know. What do you guys think about this one? Cass, what do you think?
I'm sure we talked about it when we originally recorded, but like Billie Piper is also acting her ass off in this. Like she's like her entire demeanor changes when she's like possessed by this other character.
Right.
So that was like, it was this one's a lot of fun. I questioned the mixing of the IV bags and just like, we're gonna steam clean these plague victims.
Yes.
But there are a lot of like really iconic like series 2 like moments in this episode, I feel like. So
I think it's definitely one of my favorites. Like if I were to rank the episodes of series 2, this is like probably top 3, maybe even top 2 with like Girl in the Fireplace. I don't know. It's really, really good. Nick, does this one hold up for you? Like, do you remember it more than you did End of the World? Does it like stick with you a little bit more?
Oh, definitely. I mean, like Cass said, this episode is full of iconic moments. I think going back to my childhood, trying to remember, I think so much of season 1 was just me getting my sea legs.
Yeah.
And, like it was even about which episodes I was able to catch on TV.
Right.
And so by the time we got to New Earth, I kind of knew what this show was, but then also was still so new to it. And was like kind of that leaning in that you were talking about, Scott, of like, oh, wait, this is like David Tennant's crazy. And like the chemistry he has with Billy Piper. This is really fun. I really love this show. And like you said, like it's an kind of teaching us early on, or fans have found the show in this era, that this is a show that will ask you to have empathy for these really weird, offbeat, sometimes nasty characters.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's kind of taught us how to watch this show and record this podcast, is to find love for the weirdest little freaks.
I think you can compare Cassandra to like, I think she is Russell T Davies doing a better version of like Margaret the Slovene, like what he was trying to do with her in like Boomtown, where he was like, oh, I'm going to add another layer to her and whatever. And I think, we watched that not too long ago. And I think we all agreed, we were like, yeah, there's good stuff in here, but it doesn't quite land. I mean, granted, her plan is to like surfboard through the universe, which is very silly.
It's the most nonsense thing. I love it.
Yeah, but I feel like I feel like he learned from that process and then brought that to Cassandra and was like, I'm gonna improve on, like, I'm gonna do what I tried to do with her, but this time I'm gonna like really bring it. And I think he improved like every aspect of what he was attempting to do with Cassandra in this episode. Are we in agreement then? Is it New Earth over End of the World? I think for all of us.
No, actually.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
It was close though. It was close.
Yeah.
I mean, if because there's three of us, so like there's an automatic tiebreaker. So
right. So it's 2 against 1.
Yes.
But so all right. So take your space to I guess argue for End of the World.
I think as I've gotten older and as I've like rewatched this show, I just prefer 9 and Rose. And
sure.
I think the wacky sci-fi of End of the World is like super charming. And I enjoy like New York, like the city of New York and whatever, and like but it like there's just like a rawness to End of the World that I appreciate. And I don't know. This one was tough, but I think it's End of the World for me.
Yeah,
Scott, what do you think?
I think for me, at the end of the day, it's got to be New Earth. But I do think that the setup for End of the World is more interesting than New Earth. Because New Earth is more like, hey, I'm going to take you somewhere cool that you've never seen before. Check this out. Oh, there's an adventure here. Who would have thought? Whereas this like the End of the World is like, you've never traveled with me before, and the first place I'm going to take you is to watch your planet die, which is so weird and unsettling as a thing, but also I don't know, it's like an interesting setup. And there is like the
it's so
the sort of like
in retrospect.
Yeah, totally. And there's like the sort of like closed door mystery whodunit aspect of End of the World,
right?
Which is kind of cool too. But yeah, for me, I just can't get over the Cassandra stuff.
Yeah. No, that was really really good. Like
yeah. And her little mutant assistant, and I don't know. I just have so much fun watching New Earth, even if like the setup and stuff might be better in End of the World. I think I still just barely have to lean on the side of New Earth, but I've still got like one foot hovering over End of the World.
This one's
like I'm
hard.
not. Yeah, this one's really tough. Nick, where you landing?
I think I'm gonna have to go with New Earth as well, but I think you're both right. This was a very difficult first matchup.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. Well, then I am plugging in New Earth.
We can never watch the End of the World again.
All right. Well, there we go. Okay. All
What's the next matchup, Scott?
So our next matchup is the series 3 premiere, Smith and Jones, up against the Easter special, Planet of the Dead. So Smith and Jones, introduction of Martha Jones, and also more importantly, the rhinoceros guys,
the Jadoon.
The Jadoon, who is like maybe like I'm like trying to think of like ongoing Doctor Who aliens that Russell T Davies created, and I can't think of a better one off the top of my head than these guys. The Jadoon are so Doctor Who and so weird. And I like that that this is the episode where they teleport a hospital to the moon. And there's a old lady who is a vampire who is on the loose. And she drinks people's blood through a straw. And the Jadoon aren't really villains. They're just there. They're space cops. And they're like, yeah, there's a fugitive here and we got to find her. And the doctor's like, okay, that's fine. This is not how we do this. It's just sort of the general vibe. And then he kind of just, falls for Martha as a companion because she's just so competent. And she is a doctor herself, which is really fun. I have heard, I don't know for sure, but maybe I'll find out when we get to this episode in Long Way Around, which is relatively soon. I've heard that the original title for this, that he wanted to call this, and BBC talked him out of it, was he wanted it to be called The Two Doctors.
Oh.
But they were like, there's already one called that. You can't do that again. Yeah. But good job. Very clever.
It's funny.
But I do like that. I don't know. This is a really fun one for me. I really have a lot of fun watching this one. Nick, what do you think of Smith and Jones?
It's classic, it's like, we were talking about hooiness, and sometimes an episode doesn't even have to be like, you love it when you find a girl in the fireplace or the doctor's wife, but like you tune in every week just to kind of like sink into your couch and like just watch a hospital land on the moon. and there's like rhino cops.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Cass? And then, that's how we meet Martha too.
Yeah. This is another one that I watched because I could not remember what happened in it other than Martha showing up. This one was very pleasantly surprising. Like, the Jadoon are, I don't even know if there is another Russell T alien that shows up past his run.
Past his run? Do the Ood ever?
Ooh.
I don't think so.
Do they never show
Not
up
even
in
like a
Moffat era?
background thing? I don't know.
The Cat Nuns, are they him?
Yeah, Cat Nuns are him. I mean, those are probably, we're just naming his top 3, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think that's the top 3 right there.
But no, those I love, like a Jadoon platoon upon the moon. Like, that's like super iconic. Yeah. I had a lot of fun revisiting this. I'm excited to like talk about it in detail when we get to it. And one thing that I liked too was we like the first thing that we get in the episode is like Martha taking phone calls from like all the members of her family, and like that's setting up like her family dynamic, which I think is really cool. And that tells a lot of like, that communicates to me like a lot about who Martha is as a character before she even is in this like really stressful situation and meets the doctor. So I don't know. I'm excited to cover Martha. It was a lot of fun revisiting this.
Yeah. Okay. And then Planet of the Dead. This is the episode with 10 on a bus. Meets what is her name? Christina.
Yep, Lady Christina.
Lady Christina. The character that everyone thought was going to be a big deal, and then was only in this one episode and never seen or heard from again. Right. Lady Christina. They're on a bus. The bus goes to another planet in the desert. And they have to figure out a way to get back. For me, I think this is pretty weak. overall, with the exception of like I really like the last 10 minutes. Once they get back to London, it's like way more exciting. With the bus and the guy that's like, I'm the Doctor's biggest fan, and like you're not going to tell me what to do. I'm going to do what he would want. And like that little nerdy scientist guy, I forget his name. Malcolm. Apparently this is one of the ones you rewatched, Nick.
No, yes. Can you tell? Can you tell I watched it 3 hours ago?
So yeah, I like all of that stuff. But everything in the desert, like it's just, I don't know. It's just, I find this episode very boring. It's trying real hard to be a big blockbuster thing, but it just doesn't really work for me. Cass, thoughts?
I appreciate like the iconography of it, like the desert, like the bus stranded in the desert and stuff. And I think Christina's cool, but like in a like a action movie, like trying too hard to be kind of cool. This is definitely like the weakest of those.
She's
specials.
Cool in like an uncool
kind of
I don't
way.
know.
Yeah. I don't know. She's not very memorable, you know?
No.
So.
Yeah. Nick?
Well, so it's funny. I didn't even remember this from being in the bracket, but I chose to watch this over Smith and Jones simply because there were Smith and Jones had enough memorable moments, and I go, oh yeah, Platoon of June on the moon, like they're on the moon, in the
That's
hospital,
fair.
and, like Martha,
yeah,
and we're like going to cover this so soon that
right.
I was like, well, I don't want to be engaged when I don't want to spoil it, basically.
Right.
So I watched this one, even though like I don't think I've seen this since 2009, and this is exactly kind of what we were talking about in terms of hooiness. Is like it's just a run of the mill fun adventure. What I'll say about Lady Christina, a thought I had about Lady Christina: A, she's played by Michelle Ryan, who was also the Bionic Woman at the time. Remember that, Scott? Or that?
Wow.
Cast?
Yeah. I totally forgot about that. Wow.
Yep.
Yeah, she was an actress that they were like really trying to make happen for a while.
And I think Cass hit the nail on the head where she's cool in she's uncool, cool in an uncool way.
Mm-hmm.
She kind of I don't know how accurate this is, but a thought that I had is she seems to me like RTD trying to write a Moffat character.
Yes, I was just going to say that.
Yeah.
100% that's what it feels like. Yes.
Like hyper competent, really like femme and like flirty and like a little freaky and like just the smartest person in the world.
Yeah. But what it ends up coming across is almost like Russell was like, oh, this will be easy. And then it turns out not to be easy because all he was doing was just writing Captain Jack as a woman, basically. She's got a lot in common with Captain Jack.
He kind of he pulls a similar, but he has a similar instinct as Kevin Smith in Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, which is like, how do I tell the audience that this woman is like really cool and hyper competent and sexy? Like, oh, have her do a jewel heist.
Yes.
You know who else is in this episode, guys, that I did not remember?
Yeah.
Daniel
Get
Kaluuya.
Out, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Daniel Kaluuya. Yeah.
As Barkley. And
right.
So two things. A, he plays Barkley, who's just kind of like a guy on a bus. It's really fun.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I couldn't remember if this was one of like the one by one they all get picked off and die episodes. And it wasn't. It's one where like all of the supporting characters live, and like it's really fun and sweet. And like I appreciated knowing that this comes sandwiched in between the one where Kylie Minogue dies and right? This comes after the Titanic one?
No, this comes after Next Doctor.
Oh, okay. So the bad one.
Yeah. This comes between Next Doctor and Waters of Mars.
So knowing that Waters of Mars, because I almost watched that and I'm like, no, I remember that one being really good and really sad. And like, this is the opposite, which is like, it's okay, but it makes me really happy.
Which, by the way, I this is something only for you, Nick.
Please.
But watching the morning show season 3 was so weird because she plays Corey's mom. from Waters of Mars is Corey's.
Wow.
And the whole time I was like, man, you're the lady that just did the most badass suicide I've ever seen.
Right. It's kind of like a soft through line of those specials is him meeting these exemplary individuals, but him choosing to be alone again and again, or like swerving and be like, no, you're not coming on the TARDIS. Because that's what happens with Lady Christina. She's like, well, let's do it. Kind of like very Captain Jack of let's like have sex and do crimes and go into adventures. And Doctor's like, I can't do that right now. I might be
going
dying.
through some stuff.
Yeah.
I just can't. Yeah.
But one thing I wanted to point out is that at the end of it, so Unit is in this episode, which I had no memory of. I don't even think I knew what Unit might have been my introduction to Unit for all I know.
Unit is in series 4.
Yeah, the Centauran two-parter that nobody likes.
Oh, that's right. You're both right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And then they're in I think they're involved in like Turn Left.
Yes.
Got it.
Yeah. So.
Well, Malcolm is in Unit, the guy that we met, the scientist who has a unit of measurement named after himself. Malcolm.
Yeah. He's the best character in this episode,
sure.
my opinion. He's the best. I like Malcolm.
But at the end of this episode, the Doctor turns to the Unit people and he's like, oh, Barclay over there was pretty cool. He's looking for a job. He's good with engines. Maybe you should hire him. And I'm like, oh my God, if Daniel Kaluuya ever wanted to come back.
Yeah, he could.
Unit Agent Barclay.
That's who Martha should have ended up with, not Mickey.
Oh, hell yeah.
Okay. I don't know. So I appreciate everything that you're saying. I am going to disagree with you vehemently about the hooiness of this episode.
Sure.
Because I don't think this is very Doctor Who at all. This episode, I think Smith and Jones, just walks laps around it in terms of hooiness. Personally,
it is like the platonic ideal. It never comes up in this list, but it is like a perfect episode to show someone who's never watched Doctor Who before.
Mm-hmm.
That's true. That's a good one. Is this a good jumping on point? That's another good thing to use.
Sorry, end of the world.
Oh,
might help you.
yeah.
God damn it.
So I think my lean is all the way on Smith and Jones with this one. You too, Cass.
Yes.
What about you, Nick? I guess in theory.
I even know you're both probably right. Like I'm probably going to watch Smith and Jones later this year and be like, oh yeah, this is really fun. But I'll just vote for Planet of the Dead because I just watched it.
Just to throw it above.
Okay,
yeah,
sure. Yeah. All right, fair enough. Give it one vote. Okay, so Smith and Jones. Moving on to the next round. Okay.
Ooh.
All right. So next up we have Tooth and Claw and the next Doctor.
Wow.
This is going to be difficult for the equal and opposite reasons that End of the World and New Earth was difficult. Because I don't like either one of these.
I know, that's so funny.
So Tooth and Claw, this is the episode from series 2, famously with the annoying bit about them trolling Queen Victoria and trying to get her to say, I am not amused.
Not amused.
This is the introduction of Torchwood, the Torchwood Institute. This is the first mention of that in a pointed way rather than an offhanded way like it was in the Christmas Invasion. And yeah, this is monks and werewolves. And I really, really, really do not like this. And talk about things that are have zero hooiness. I feel like this has the hooiness in this is a 1 out of 10. I really not into it at all. But I think you guys like this more than I do. But I hate this episode. So, thoughts and feelings about Tooth and Claw. Nick, thoughts on Tooth and Claw?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember our episode of this and what that conversation was like. I think it's kind of similar to New Earth, where I have a lot of nostalgia for that episode and can you remember watching it and having a fun whatever night of the week Doctor Who came on.
Yeah.
and maybe because it's the Buffy thing, but I kind of like, I vibe with this the supernatural adventure and the Torchwood of it all. Yeah, I just have a lot of like affection for this one, I guess.
Yeah. Cass?
Okay, so I would like to posit that like one of the most quoted Doctor Who like David Tennant era quotes, like books, The Greatest Weapon in the World is from this episode. Brady Specs is from this episode. I like
Wow, I totally just thought all of those things were from Silence of the Library.
No.
That two-parter.
No, it's from
wow,
this.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Every time I see that GIF, that's always what I'm like, oh yeah, Silence of the Library.
Yeah, he uses his Scottish accent.
Library, books. Yeah.
Which I'm, very partial to. I like the period. I like when we see BBC period outfits, and I like werewolves. I don't know. I like this episode. I forget that it's him all the time, but I like this episode.
I am in the minority on this, and I know that. Like, I follow some, Doctor Who accounts on my various social medias, and this is always like ranked very high in people's favorite Russell T Davies written episodes. This just it just doesn't do anything for me personally. I do like those quotes, and I like that set. With the telescope and all of that, like I really like that set. I kind of hate everything else about this. It's a lot of it's a similar Ten and Rose's vibes in this are very similar to how I feel about Idiot's Lantern. I almost called it the Idiot Box. Idiot's Lantern, which is that they just are like snotty little kids, and I'm just not into it. I don't know, they're a little too catty, and I'm not feeling, not that I'm like trying to defend Queen Victoria's honor, but like I don't know. Okay, so then the next Doctor is the 2008 Christmas special. This is another example of Russell T Davies like trolling the audience, which is like, it has been announced that that 10 is going to regenerate, and then he comes out with a Christmas special called The Next Doctor, and everyone was like, oh my god, we're gonna meet the next Doctor before he regenerates. This is crazy. What a crazy thing. And then we get what is this actor's name from The Next Doctor? He's from The Walking Dead. He was the governor in The Walking Dead, which I remember being like, wow, that is weird casting. Shoot.
I don't remember his name.
Anyway, I'm going to get it right now. Next Doctor. Somebody's screaming at us what the name of this is. It is... why is this so hard to find who plays
David Morrissey?
David Morrissey.
And I started last too.
God, that just took so long for me to find. Sometimes you just want to know the actors. I don't know. I don't need to know his whole life story. Right? Anyway, David Morrissey. So here's what I'll say about this. So this is the episode where the guy has amnesia and he got like Doctor basically the show Doctor Who pumped into his brain, and now he thinks he's the Doctor, and he's got the hot air balloon, and there's like the lady with the giant Cyberman mech, steampunk mech, and it's that episode. I think when we talked about this on our holiday special bracket, it did not, I don't think it crossed the first threshold. I don't think it even got to the second round in that time. For me, I will say, I mean, obviously I like this more than Tooth and Claw because I hate Tooth and Claw. But I like the Dickensian vibes of this, mixed with the Christmas stuff. I think that the Cyberman mech is big and crazy. I like that the hot air balloon is a TARDIS, and it's all very silly, even if it's not a particularly great episode. But neither of these are particularly great episodes. But I'm gonna lean Next Doctor personally. But I'm fine with losing that battle if that is the case. It's fine. So what are your thoughts on Next Doctor?
Speaking of something Cass brought up in terms of like iconic Doctor Who Tumblr gifs, the next Doctor features the "It's Christmas" gif.
Yeah.
Where he steps out of the TARDIS and it's like this, like you said, Dickensian Christmas wonderland, and he's like smiling and he does like a 360.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. This one gives me a lot of Muppet Christmas Carol vibes.
Oh yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. So it is comforting. It's comfy to look at, even if like the episode isn't, the best.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's like the one where if you take a nap during it, it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right, totally. And maybe you should for about 20 minutes in the middle. I don't know. Thoughts on the next Doctor cast?
I will say that this is one of my favorite New Who Cyberman stories. Which is not like a
yeah.
Like a deep pond, but like I like the vibes in this a lot. It has I like the vibes more than the plot, I think. But I like the Cyberman mech.
Yeah. I would kind of say that's true of both of these, where the vibes are stronger than the actual plot. So
what are your thoughts on the next Doctor? Just in general. Sleepy
vibes, Nick.
Sleepy vibes?
I don't remember this one very well, so I guess that kind of I remember the big moments.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I guess I'm gonna have to go with Tooth and Claw on this one.
I agree.
Okay. All right, fair enough. I do really like Ten's reaction to meeting David Morrissey's doctor, where he's like, "I'm the doctor," and he's like, "What?" And he's like, "Wait, come back!" What? He's just like chasing after him. I just think that's fun.
For sure.
And all of the jokes about like the low rent Doctor Who iconography, I think is fun. Okay. Tooth and Claw moves on to the next round. If it goes any further, I will riot.
I would be shocked.
Yeah.
There's no way.
Yeah. Okay. Tooth and Claw. Okay. Next up, we have Partners in Crime, the Series 4 introduction to Donna as a companion. And the Series 1 very first episode, Rose. So it's the introduction of Rose versus the hard introduction rather than soft introduction of Donna. It's like two possibilities for happy endings for the Doctor, so much so that he split himself in two and gave one of them one happy ending, and he took the other one. Eventually, he circled back around and got there. Okay, so starting with Partners in Crime, this is the Adipose episode. This is Donna investigating the Adipose thing separately from the Doctor, while the Doctor is also doing that, having a bunch of like really adorable, like almost seeing each other, passing each other on the street kind of thing, and has maybe the most iconic GIF set of the Russell T Davies era.
For sure.
It's either this or crying in the rain, David Tennant.
I think we should just go ahead and make this a qualifier. Is
the GIF set thing?
Is like
iconography?
like GIF legacy, iconography, like social media legacy, because New Earth had some iconic kind of moments of like a little bit sexy, like those little.
That's true.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very true. But yeah, this is where they see each other through the two windows, and the great gag of it going on and on and on, of them silently talking to each other, like mouthing words, having a conversation, and then the villain just being like, "Are you guys done? Like,
are we interrupting?"
Yeah, just noticing them like a really long time ago. Which is like a really funny gag,
it's like
and
maybe one of the best directed scenes of this show.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, very true, very true.
Or edited,
yeah, and in terms of like things that don't age well, like this is all about like fat people, which Russell has a whole thing with. He loves a fat joke, and I think he probably sees it as like self-deprecating or something, but it doesn't really come across that way in his writing. And I'm very hopeful that we don't see that the head of that particularly ugly snake come back around in his new show. So there is that worth noting. But yeah, I mean, this just starts, best BFFs, Donna and Ten, the best doctor companion pairing, top 3 at least, if not the very best of all time. So thoughts on Partners in Crime, Cass?
So this is one that I did rewatch. I agree it has not aged well. The best part of the episode is when they finally see each other, and then the rest is like kind of boring. To me, at least. Like, I watched Smith and Jones, and then I watched this one back to back, and like the comparison between the two, it was like insane. So as much fun as it is seeing like Ten and Donna like at the height of their like camaraderie or whatever, like the start of it, and it's cool retroactively. I don't think this I don't know. Yeah, it didn't work for me this time around.
Yeah. Unicorn and the Wasp was the height of their
That's true.
chemistry.
Yeah. Oh, also worth noting, the introduction of Bernard Cribbins specifically as
her
Donna's grandpa.
Yeah.
The sort of retconning of that from random newspaper man.
Yeah. And he is delightful in this, but Donna's mom is so mean to her in this.
She's kind of mean.
Like,
that's like her thing, but like, I think.
I don't know.
Yeah. No, I know. Nick, what are your thoughts on Partners in Crime?
Well, I did not rewatch this, so I believe Cass because I'm struggling to remember. I mean, of course, I remember the Adipause, but like, I don't really remember like the villain of the super well or the plot. It is mostly just like, oh my god, it's the one where Doctor and Donna got back together again and started this, this great platonic love story.
Mm-hmm.
It's true. And then there's Rose, the very first episode of New Who, the pilot, if you will. We have, the Autons, and we have some really great Jackie Rose stuff. We have the unfortunate pizza, which is. That makes me cringe pretty hard every time. Not my favorite thing. But there is a lot of really, really great stuff. I mean, talk about iconic. I'm the Doctor, run. That whole thing. So good. So good. I love the weirdness there. Okay, so it has no bearing. I mean, I guess it does because it leads kind of into Love and Monsters to a certain extent. But the guy who's been like stalking the Doctor and like this guy, he like shows up all the time, and I'm like, man, the internet has done that with like Keanu Reeves and like all these other people now. But this guy is for real. I'm always a little nervous for Rose when she goes over to that guy's house because I'm like, you wouldn't do that now. You would not do that now.
No.
You would not enter the weirdo's house. But
that man gets killed in front of his wife and kid.
Yeah, right. That's right. Yeah. Yeah, and there's definitely some iconic stuff. The Autons attacking shoppers, really cool. And then you have the like third act in the the Auton I don't know, boiler room or whatever you would call that thing. That was it's a pretty cool, very Doctor Who thing, and it's just like there's so much mystery around the Doctor, and you're really being introduced to the whole concept of what Russell T Davies plans on bringing to the show, which is The fact that like the companions are going to be real characters with lives that are like can be exterior of the show, and there's going to be a whole group of characters we're going to have to deal with. But also, Mickey gets eaten by a garbage can. Nick, thoughts on Rose?
I was going to say insert metaphor here.
Yeah.
So I own and have read a novelization of this story written by Russell T. Davies.
That's right.
So I read that like 2 or 3 years ago, which is probably more recently than I've watched this episode, unfortunately. But I remember reading that book and being impressed with how well that story translated to the medium of like, it felt like the first part of a chapter book, the Rose Tyler adventures, it really RTD really gets to the way you can in a novel, lets you in on Rose's interior life and where her head's at and how restless she feels and directionless she feels. And yeah, this is like it's not as like bombastic as like the 11th Hour, but it does it so effectively set up the tone of the show and it makes the Doctor cool and mysterious and even a little creepy at times. And Eccleston and Piper too, they hit the ground running with these characters.
It's certainly campy, and I think in terms of like comparing it to the 11th Hour, right? I think the 11th Hour is more clever than this, but like I don't mean that as a negative, I don't think that that's what this one was setting out to do. Cass, thoughts on Rose?
I think this one hasn't aged well, mostly because of the CGI.
Sure.
And like I think the store, like the like horror he kind of taps into of like, like being surrounded by these mannequins and then all of a sudden they all start moving, and like that is like very Doctor Who. And I think it's this episode accomplishes so much, and I don't know, it's got to be this one for me.
I think especially if you're looking at Whoiness, I think that Partners in Crime has very little Whoiness going on, whereas this is loaded with it.
Yes.
But I also think what Partners in Crime lacks in Whoiness, it is like almost an overdose in like Russell T. Davies-ness. Whereas this is like, there's a lot of Russell T. Davies stuff, but it's not quite as refined as it would be later. And they're still trying to figure out the balance between, is this a show for adults, families, or kids?
Right.
And they're like, let's make it for all three and then figure it out as we go along. And I don't think it's until like after World War III that they kind of figure out the balance of how to just make a show, a 4-quadrant show.
Right.
The tone of that. But yeah, I think I gotta go Rose on this one as well.
Wow. So just to remind myself, our goal is to kind of like cement like what was his best episode and not necessarily like the most RTD episode. The episode that most.
Yeah. Right. His best episodes of Doctor Who, So it's like, yeah.
Well, in that regards, then I'm gonna have to go with Rose as well.
Okay. All right.
Is that our first 3 for 3?
I think so.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Although you just gave Planet of the Dead a vote because you were like, well, somebody should vote for it.
So, I spent an hour watching that today. I gotta.
Yeah, well, I don't want it to have done it for nothing. Okay, speaking of World War III, our next matchup, it's so funny. I don't know that I did this on purpose.
Why'd you
Maybe
put all
I
the
did.
bad ones together?
Because I don't want to be too obvious about it. Like I want, but this is literally like fat shaming, like fat phobic against fat phobic episodes. This is Aliens of London and World War III from series 1, the Slovene 2-parter versus Voyage of the Damned, which features those poor lottery winners that didn't do anybody any harm, but are constantly fat shamed throughout the episode until they both die.
Christmas, am I right?
Christmas. Yeah, Voyage of the Damned is the Titanic one.
Okay. Okay. Wait, Aliens of London World War III. Is this Are You My Mummy? Is this
No.
No. This is the
Slovene.
This is the fat farting Slovene aliens episodes.
Then what's
where they
Boomtown?
take over the government.
Okay, but Boomtown is like the one Slovene.
Yes, Boomtown's the one where they have
the
dinner
one
with
surviving
her.
one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The lady, the mean lady.
Yes.
Yeah, this is the two-parter where they're making jokes about shaking their booty and laughing as they let the compressed air out of their human suits, which sounds like farting, and everyone's disgusted because they're so fat. Yeah, it's that one. I think that it might be my least favorite episode of Doctor Who, of New Who, like period. Is this two-parter? I despise this. I think there are aspects of the plot that I think would be interesting if it wasn't for the fact that the Slovene are just the fucking worst and are the most transparently transparently fat-phobic characters ever. Maybe. And so I despise that. And despite having, issues with Voyage of the Damned, there's just absolutely no way I'm going to let this one go any further than this. But I do want to hear what your guys' thoughts on Aliens of London and World War III are.
Okay, I've Google imaged both of these now, and I remember Harriet Jones.
Yeah.
Haxa Flaxa Drapa Taurus.
Yeah. Cass used to be able to do that at the drop of a hat.
Raxachlorocalcitorius.
See? Nice.
Boom.
Still got it, baby.
It's not that hard.
I'm just unable to.
It's so funny.
I think I had it when we watched these and recorded.
Yeah.
I think I was able to. And then Voyage of the Damned we watched for our Christmas bracket, and
right.
I remember being like, because I missed it. I don't think I watched it when it aired originally.
Oh,
but
that's right. That's right. Yeah.
That's a very entertaining Christmas episode. It's not like A Christmas Carol, but it's not The Next Doctor.
Yeah.
It's got some fun Titanic Christmas vibes. If that's your deal.
Yeah. Aliens of London World War III cast.
I will say that I kind of like the Slovenes' alien design, like when they're not in a human suit. I think expanding on the classic X-Files, like kind of like little gray men sort of thing with the big eyes and the head and everything. But
also slightly Mac and Me. In that they have because they have that big beer belly.
Yeah. And they have the weird ET fingers. Thing. I don't know. It's like
yeah.
Yeah. ET scares me. But
sure.
I like the creature design. That's about it. And Harriet Jones.
Yeah, we do get Harriet Jones. But yeah, Voyage of the Damned, it's cool that he was trying something different with this one and decided to be like, oh, well, what kind of movies do people typically say on Christmas Day? And it's like, oh, yeah, it's like whatever the big blockbuster is that's out in theaters, right? So I'll make a big blockbuster. It'll be a disaster movie, and we'll do that. And there's a lot of good stuff in this. I really like Kylie Minogue a lot in this. She said recently that she wants to come back, and I'm like, you're dead. Stop it. Knock it off. I don't
Peter
know.
Capaldi dies, and Karen Gillan. So there's precedent.
Yeah, I guess that's true. She wants to be the Astrid again.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
No, she's dead.
But yeah, I like it as a throwback to a 70s disaster movie with a big ensemble cast. I think that's fun. The angel things are pretty cool, I guess, like the angel robot guys. there's that bit where he like flies. He's got them both in like his arms, and 10 is like flying up the thing. We get the introduction of Bernard Cribbins, which is a great scene. I like the guy who's getting all of the facts about Earth Christmas history incorrect, which is really fun. Yeah, but I don't like that mostly everybody dies in this. That's a bummer. So yeah, but still I'll watch it 7 times in a row before I would ever watch Aliens of London World War III again. Cool. Yeah, what are your thoughts on Voyage of the Damned, Cass?
I remember this not aging well for me.
Yeah.
I do like the weird little guy alien. What is his name? He looks like a little cactus.
Oh yeah,
Bata
right.
Capilata. I like him. Love a weird little guy.
Yeah, because he was like he turned out to be like
cyborg.
An android. Remember?
Yeah. Yeah, it is a bummer that everyone dies in this. It's like the antithesis of like Dr. Dances.
Yeah. This time everybody died.
So it's kind of a bummer, but it's got the edge that it's a Christmas special too. So the vibes are immaculate. So this one over Aliens of London.
Oh, it's also got Russell Tovey as
Alonzo.
As Alonzo.
Yes.
Yeah, it's got that in this, which is really fun. And he has to like he also dies, I think, if I remember correctly, but then they like bring him back randomly with the Jack Bar scene later.
Yeah.
But he like stands up to his captain, and because his captain is like running, he's gonna like run the ship into Earth on purpose or something like that. And Tovey has to stand up to him, and he gets shot. Or maybe he doesn't die. Maybe he survives his bullet wound, but he does get shot. So yeah, I feel like there's enough good stuff in Voyage of the Damned that you can like the stuff that doesn't hold up super well, you can kind of like squeak past. But nothing in Aliens of London holds up super well. So I'm definitely going Voyage of the Damned on this one.
As am I.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So Voyage of the Damned. Okay. So our next matchup is the long game. Here. This is a perfect example. You were like, why do you keep putting the bad ones together? I didn't always do it.
No,
so we have the long game versus Gridlock. 2 more entries into Russell T Davies' Future of the Earth Empire epic that he tells over the course of his tenure as a showrunner. The long game is the very, very easy to forget episode where brand new companion Adam gets a forehead thingy installed in his head to like win at gambling or something like that. And Simon Pegg is in it as like an editor at this TV station thing, and there's a goopy alien thing that looks like the fungus in the Super Mario Brothers movie, the OG 93 one. That is the villain of this. Yeah, right. Yes. And yeah, I don't know. There's like literally nothing memorable about this one for me. What do you guys think, Nick?
Well, there is something very memorable about it for me, and it is that this is a photograph of this episode is the reason I started to watch Doctor Who.
Oh.
As you know, Scott and Cass, I think you've heard this story at least a couple times. I had a subscription to Entertainment Weekly for a long time back in the 2000s, and one week there was like, here's what's coming out on TV this week, and it's like Doctor Who. It was this old TV show back in the 60s, but now they're doing a sexy 2000s reboot of it. And look, Simon Pegg is in this one episode. And I was like, Simon Pegg from Shaun of the Dead?
That's awesome.
I'll watch this.
Do it.
I'll watch this Doctor Who thing. And now we're here. Here we are. I'm sitting with you two.
Well, fair enough.
That being said, I mean, I agree completely with everything you've said. This is like, this is like an average, even sometimes a little below average episode of Doctor Who. he's done this hundreds of times before even this episode happened.
If it wasn't for Bad Wolf Parting of the Ways, I don't think anyone would remember this episode even exists. To be perfectly honest. So yeah, I mean, Cass, I assume you agree. I feel like we talk about this one a lot on the show.
It's fine. Like, it's fine. It's like really bog standard sci-fi. I just am salty that it's like a waste of Simon Pegg. Like, please come back.
Yes.
Like, he's good in it.
He doesn't bleach his hair anymore. He can he could come back. He could totally
he's good in it, but like, it's, I don't know. I always just call this one the one with Simon Pegg, because also, like, the title is not, the title doesn't mean anything, you know?
Well, I if I remember correctly from the book, it was called something else, and then he went back and retitled it after
he'd written the finale.
After he came back to, like, Bad Wolf Parting of the Ways, he was like, "Oh, I'll go back and I'll call this The Long Game, because that's what I'm playing, baby." So yeah, but it always sucks when a title feels completely disconnected from the plot of the episode. It makes it really difficult to remember it or recall it.
It takes you away.
Yes.
Perfect example. Absolutely spot on. Perfect example. And then there's Gridlock, which could very well be my favorite of, like, the Future Earth trilogy that he does, which I consider this End of the World and New Earth to be, like, kind of a trilogy. I think this is my favorite one. It's just so fun. It's so interesting, hopping from car to car, stuck in traffic. It's also, like, existentially horrific, that these people are in traffic for centuries, to the point where, like, generations have, like, been born and died in traffic. I don't know that I got how existentially horrifying.
Right, and now you live in LA.
Now I live in LA, and I'm like, this is a nightmare. This is a true nightmare. But it's typical Doctor Who in that, like, that is existentially horrific, but also everybody seems to be in pretty good spirits about it, because that's the human race to Doctor Who, is that they'll find the hope and the positivity in any situation, if you give them enough time. And there's something really, I don't know, great about that. Plus, there's cat people in this again, and they're the best. And a lady gives birth to kittens. What's not to love about that? I'm a big fan of this episode. This is maybe one of my favorites on this bracket, to be perfectly honest. Nick, what are your thoughts on Gridlock?
So I watched this one last night.
Because
I had no memory of it. I was like, Gridlock. And had a ball. I mean, of course I remembered it as I was watching it, because, like, this is a consummate episode of Doctor Who. And I remember this completely absorbing me as a kid. Of, like, he's in this crazy, future version of Earth with, circumstances that are, like, seem crazy, but then you learn more about him, and it has RTD's just love of the common man in this. It almost feels like a Frank Capra movie at some point. Like, there's a part where they all sing their daily anthem together, and Martha is, like, crying, and even me, of like, wow, it is, like, something so beautiful, is because they have been so separated from each other, they have had to create a sense of community. And where I was like, I don't know if I feel this strongly about my neighbor, the way, imagine if every day you have to sing this is, like, heartfelt anthem together about how life isn't hopeless. So I had a lot of fun with this one. And really cool. I really like how the arc of Martha, and what a douchebag the Doctor is being to Martha. And we get that beautiful little moment at the end where he finally breaks down his walls and talks about Gallifrey and how beautiful it was. And, Cass, like, you brought this up when we were talking about Rose parting of the, last week, how cool it is now, having seen 14's arc, and, like, seeing like where this character ends up
Mm-hmm.
and seeing how far they've come actually when you look at it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Also, the other thing about that moment that I want to shout out just as a like I don't know, a writing sort of construction thing is that like, yes, it is doing exactly what you're saying it's doing about like the relationship with Martha and like bringing the walls down, but it's also subtly setting up the finale with the master and
sure.
all of that.
Face of Bow,
which is
you
just
are
like,
not alone and all. Yeah.
Right. It's so cool. Like that. I love that. I just think that that's really cool.
Real quick, one more thing is like having no memory of this episode. The Macra.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That blew my mind this time.
I'll be honest. I'm surprised you remembered the Macra terror episode.
I'll never forget the Macra terror.
Okay.
Those big crabs.
Yeah,
that's true. Yeah. But yeah, that's pretty cool. Cass, thoughts on Gridlock?
I haven't seen this one in a really long time. But the thing I remember about it is that it always makes me cry.
Yeah.
And I feel like the community, like the sense of community, but like the isolated nature of it, like that Nick was talking about, is going to hit a lot different post quarantine. And like, cause like, you know, like, cause he was talking about like singing like the daily anthem or whatever. And like, that just reminds me of like all those videos from like Italy where like those people were on their balconies, like singing across the street to each other. So like, I think that like moments like that where Russell T kind of like, just kind of, he's so good at encapsulating like human resilience, you know, like hope against all hope. And I feel like this episode is like a distillation of that. Plus there's giant crab aliens and cat people.
Well, yeah. And you know, on top of the lockdown pandemic, you know, allegory or whatever, there's also definitely an aspect of like internet friendships.
Oh,
you
yeah,
know?
for sure. Like together but separate.
Right, right. That is really cool. Like a really cool reading of it as well. So, yeah, that's a really good one. I think it's better than The Long Game. I don't know. So let's put it in there. Gridlock. Moving on to round 2. Our final matchup of round 1.
Oh, we didn't do we didn't do Army of Ghosts and
Oh, we skipped right past that. You're right. Okay, never mind. Let me go back to Army of Ghosts Doomsday versus Boomtown.
We don't need to drag this one out, do we?
So, okay. We've already mentioned Boomtown a bunch of times on this bracket. It's the one with Margaret, the lone Sylvine. There's the great bit where they go out to dinner, her and the doctor, and they have like a tete-a-tete about like what he does with villains and stuff like that. There's a lot of really good stuff in there. But at the end of the day, her plot is that she wants to like surf her way to like becoming a baby again or something like that. It's insane. It's completely insane. And the other benefit that this has is the I think we remember when we talked about this a couple of seasons ago, maybe, or maybe even last season. Maybe it was the episode season we just covered. Yeah, on Long Way Around. The Mickey Rose stuff is, I remember, being like pretty good in this one. And you know, because they like go on a date, and it's just like there's nothing sci-fi about her plot line in this at all. It's just Rose on a date with Mickey and dealing with their bullshit. And
that's enough.
You know,
that's
it's pretty good. So all that being said, it's pretty good, but like Army of Ghost Doomsday, my probably I will talk about it, but like my not a finale that I love. Personally, I think there's a bunch of missteps in this. I wish it was executed better than it is, but it's hard to argue an episode with, you know, some of the most iconic things to ever happen in New Who versus Boomtown, which would be the most forgotten episode of Doctor Who if it wasn't for the long game. So I get it. I don't know. Thoughts, feelings on either of these guys?
I think I love Army of Ghosts and Doomsday more than either of you from our last episode. I think I was the most hyped. I think that's peak Who to me. And
by last episode, you mean the episode that listeners will hear months from now? But yes,
sure.
The last we recorded.
Last one.
Last one we recorded. Yeah. I just don't want anybody to think they missed something.
No, for sure. Wibbly wobbly, timey wimey. And Boomtown, more like Shit Town.
The podcast from the makers of cereal.
About that sad man who lived out in the middle of nowhere. Yeah.
Yeah. Who got Mad Hatter disease.
He did get Mad Hatter disease. That's right.
Yeah.
No, it's not that bad. It's a pretty entertaining episode.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna be the dissenting voice.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I really like Boomtown. I really like Boomtown a lot. I like that it feels like a play. I like that. I like it's not the Doctor Who-iest episode, but I like when he does like character work. And like the character work in like the stuff with Ten and Rose, you know, in Army of Ghosts Doomsday is like really iconic. The Daleks and Cybermen, like that has the edge in that department, but like I just don't like New Who Cybermen. So I will. I don't know. I guess I'll take Boomtown over that one.
Well, then, Nick, I'm sorry. I'm going to go Boomtown as well.
Oh shit!
Wow.
I'm very sorry. I really do not. I don't care for Army of Ghost Doomsday.
I thought,
it's very...
I thought the way that you were saying, like, oh, we don't.
Well,
have to...
I just assumed it was going to go that way, and I was like, I mean, I get it if it does, you know. But I do like Boomtown. I you know, it's very goofy. There's parts of it that are really goofy. It does have that really fun scene where she keeps trying to get away.
Yes.
And toy with her,
and the doctor's talking to the assistant. Yeah. Mark is talking to the assistant. Doctor is like talking to it. It's like, she's going out the window, isn't she? And he's like, yeah. And he like has to go and pull her out from out the window. I don't know. And the other thing too is just like, I don't know. I get, you know, we're doing this sort of balance of like hooiness versus RTD-ness. And this is very much like all the way on the RTD stuff, but like, I don't know. It's what I show up for Russell T Davies for is stuff like this. It's breaking the format, but in a way that I find interesting.
Yeah.
And yeah, with all I grant all the iconography of Army of Ghosts Doomsday, but I can't sanction it. I don't know. It's not. I don't like those episodes. I'm so sorry, Nick.
I'm very, very interested to see the next matchup post this. So yeah, let's move Boomtown into round 2.
Okay,
I like mess.
All right. Okay, Boomtown moves on to round 2. All right. Last matchup of round 1, Love and Monsters versus The End of Time. We very recently revisited Love and Monsters. I think we all found way more to like about it than we remembered. But at the end of the day, this is an episode, a Doctor Who episode that ends with a blowjob joke. So,
is this the one with Electric Light Orchestra?
I don't know.
And Moaning Myrtle?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Where she turns into a slab of pavement and makes a joke about sucking his dick.
I will say, this is having revisited New Earth. This is not the first time that joke has been made on the show, because there's a similar like dirty joke where
about Cassandra.
Yes. She talks
okay.
about how her weird clone servant sees to her needs, and Rose is just like, I hope that means what I think it means, like, or something like that. And I'm just like, okay, this is just Russell T.
All right. Doesn't end on that.
No,
that
it
joke,
does
though.
not. No,
it doesn't. It doesn't make the blowjob joke and then go boo, and it just like and then the episode's over, which is insane. But all of the Jackie stuff in Love and Monsters absolutely rules. I think we all we were gushing about the Jackie stuff in Love and Monsters when we watched it last time. But yeah, it says a lot about fandom and all that good stuff. So there's definitely a lot of stuff to like about Love and Monsters. I don't know. Any other thoughts about Love and Monsters before we talk about the other one? Nick, do you have thoughts about Love and Monsters in regards to the bracket?
Yeah, it is a much derided episode, but I think we were able to find some interesting, at least discussion points about it. I think this is another episode where we found this is a metaphor for online community and fandom angle. Fascinated to hear what both of you think about the other episode in this matchup, though.
Yeah. Cass, any other Love and Thunder?
Love and Thunder. Many Love and Thunder thoughts. I remember enjoying this episode right up until the alien shows up, and that completely ruins it for me.
Absorbaloff.
Yeah. So there's that.
Fair enough. Yeah. Doesn't he also have a weird, once he gets big, doesn't he start talking like fat bastard?
Yeah, probably.
No one talks like fat bastard.
I think he does. I think he's whoa, he does that thing.
Yeah.
Me hungry, kind of.
Yeah. Oh, daddy hungry. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And then the other episode is The End of Time, which of course is David Tennant's regeneration episode. Or I guess specifically the 10th Doctor's regeneration episode, because now we have to narrow it down. This is the return of good old Johnny Sims as the Master. He eats a burger he eats burgers plural in a way that rivals the cherry tomato in Return of the King. And the Master Race.
Barack Obama's speech is going to save the world economy.
Yep, absolutely. And so, there's a lot of really campy stuff in this. There's a lot of stuff in this that I was like, man, I wish 10's final story was better, because there's another final story that we'll talk about soon that is kind of feels like maybe should have been his final story instead of this. But there's also so many good things in this. Bernard Cribbins is absolutely killing it. Just with all of the immense this is the end and the epicness of all of that. It's really, they're using Rassilon in the place of Billy Piper this time with the voiceover of
My name is Rassilon.
This is the end of time. Yeah. I'm a slasher of prices. It's I don't know. But despite all that, all of the epicness of that, I think of all of Russell T Davies' Christmas specials, the first 30 minutes of The End of Time Part 1 might have the heaviest, thickest, best Christmas vibes of all of them. I feel like it is the most Christmassy of I shan't, it's Christmas. And that whole thing, and
it's Thursday Murder
whole
Club.
Old People
Them,
Network. Yeah, I love that. I love all of that stuff. I love the quiet scene in the cafe between him and Bernard Cribbins is so good. And the campiness of the master aside, like there's so much good stuff in here, and like, do I wish this was better? Yeah, but also I don't know. There's enough good stuff in here that I can kind of roll with it, and I certainly think it's better than Love and Monsters. I don't know. Thoughts on The End of Time, Nick? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's like two of the best acted scenes in New Who history, and a lot of horse shit.
Yeah. Yes. 1000%. Yeah.
It's almost kind of the inverse of Love and Monsters, which is like a much derided episode, but we found like, there's actually like a lot of really cool stuff in this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Cass, what are your thoughts?
I think this matchup is really interesting, actually, because I feel like both episodes are kind of Russell T Davies at his like most Russell T-ness, like, but on like different ends of the spectrum. Like End of Time for all of the the nonsense and the cheeseburgers and everything. It feels like it's like an emotional like capstone. Like it like wraps up the era in like a both like a good and a bad way, you know? And then like Love and Monsters is just like him experimenting, but like also in the framework of the show. And like I don't know. I Don't Want to Go is still kind of like it's very affecting, you know? So
and that scene of like I think you're gonna have a good year.
Yeah.
That whole thing, which somebody pointed out takes place 1 week after he leaves the baby at the church.
Whoa.
Yeah, because that's Christmas Eve and then that's New Year's Eve. So of 2004.
Huh.
So right around the corner, Ruby's like hanging out with some nuns on New Year's Eve.
Yeah. Yeah. Sucking down a bottle.
Getting abducted
really
by
puts into perspective just how young she is.
Oh my god.
I know.
Hate that.
And I agree, like 2 of the best acted scenes in all of Doctor Who and a bunch of bullshit, but also some of that bullshit's really fun.
Yes.
Like the doctor on the gurney getting wheeled around and telling everybody like, no, not that way, this way, and like all of that. Yeah. I don't know. There's some fun stuff in there. The conversation with them where they're on the ship. So I would argue 3 really great acted scenes. When he and Bernard Cribbins are like on the ship looking out at space and talking about like what it means to be a companion and the Doctor and war and all of these things. Really good stuff there. Yeah. But also the master race, which is some of the goofiest bullshit.
It's like so embarrassing in like hindsight.
It's really, yes, it really, whew, boy. What was the unironic use of the term race wars in a Fast and Furious movie?
Oof.
Yeah. We're like, we're going to race wars. And I was like, oh, guys, you didn't say that out loud until just now.
It was 2001 when they started race wars. It was a different time.
Yeah, I guess that's true. So okay, between these 2, I think I'm gonna have to go End of Time because I just think the iconography of the End of Time just absolutely pummels even the best of Love and Monsters on its own. I mean, this is also maybe one of the other most overused gifs on the internet, which is Bernard Cribbins crying at Donna's funeral saying goodbye to 10.
Her wedding?
That like shot of him. Huh?
Donna's wedding.
At Donna's wedding.
You said funeral.
Yeah.
Oh, I said funeral?
Yeah.
Oh,
I was like, what?
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Wedding. And anyway, and then the lottery ticket is funny. I don't know. I got to go End of Time in this particular matchup. What about you guys?
I agree.
Okay.
Love and Monsters, baby.
Wow.
We're switching.
All right.
It's like a great episode of Batman the Animated Series, like you said, Scott, it's experimenting with the form.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
That's true. But End of Time at 2 against 1, End of Time moves on to round 2. And now we begin round 2. And we have round 1 champion New Earth going up against the I'm going to call it the penultimate special, even though I know End of Time is technically 2 specials. The penultimate special, The Waters of Mars. The Waters of Mars, in which, we get Time Lord victorious, and we get, the Doctor trying to change history for the first time in a way that he claims was previously blocked, and his one-off companion in this being stronger than him, and instead choosing to commit suicide rather than be saved for the sake of history and everything else. She just doesn't want the responsibility. But yeah, it feels, I always get many aspects of this episode mixed up with the Satan Pit 2-parter. Because they're both like crews on faraway missions in space. They're
both great.
It feels very, they're very Russell T Davies-ish. And yeah, but
they both feature like we're so freaking far away from anybody. It's insane. We're so alone.
Right. Yeah, and they're both like vaguely inspired by Sunshine, that Danny Boyle movie. So here's what I'll say as a negative against Waters of Mars, and I've always felt this way about it. I think that it has a phenomenal ending, and I think like the ending overshadows how generic the rest of it is, in my opinion. I think that the water monsters are blah. They don't really do anything for me. They feel like kind of like scraping the bottom of the barrel as far as like ideas. And I think all of that feels very generic Doctor Who, in a way that I'm not into. And then the last 20 minutes come in and save this episode's life. I think if it wasn't for those 20 minutes, this episode would not be remembered at all. But that's my feeling on it. Thoughts for you guys?
So this is the first episode of Doctor Who that I watched quote unquote live.
Wow.
Cause I'd watched I speed ran, like most of Tennant's run, the summer before. And I am not quite sure what it says about me as a person, but like this is like my favorite episode of this era. I think I think the water because it's like a virus, right? Like I haven't seen it in a while, but like it's like infecting the crew members, and like the idea of being in a remote like outpost well, it's not even remote, it's like Mars, but like being in space where like you are relying on like the water that you have, and it infecting you and like turning you into like a zombie movie basically is like really scary to me. So like that works for me. I usually when I'm like watching Doctor Who, I'm like all about and I like literally just talked about it, like the hopefulness of it. But I like how bleak this gets. I like that it's like Ten's low point. But it feels like because he's like at the height of his hubris, but I like that it's like a low point for him. I think it's a really interesting episode of this show, and like a really interesting like examination of like this character, like the 10th Doctor specifically.
Okay.
Yeah, I really wanted to rewatch this one, and I ran out of time because I remember very little of it plot-wise, but I do remember the vibes, and I remember the way it made me feel back in 2009. And at the time, like Cass said, the drama of watching 10 regenerate is just like something that will never happen again in my life as a nerd. Just how emotionally big it felt that we were getting ready to say goodbye to 10 and we're watching it happen. Like he's dealing with it. The character is wrestling with it. And like seeing this person who was so aspirational as the Doctor, like everyone's like imaginary friend, like hero, to watch him fall victim to his baser fears and anxieties. And like I said, his hubris. And I just still remember David Tennant's performance in this being very impressive. And like the fear and the desperation when he hears the three knocks and he's like, no, fuck you. I'm the Doctor. I don't have to deal with this. Like I'm better than, look at all the good I've done, blah, blah, blah. So yeah. And I do admire how bleak it is, even though it may have even kept me from leaping on it the way I was going to rewatch Planet of the Dead and then this one, and then I ran out of time. But yeah, I still remember how chilled I was watching this for the first time.
Yeah, I think for me that entire Time Lord Victorious thing doesn't amount to anything for me. In a way that, like, I don't know, it never feels like it was paid off, which is why like Big Finish like did a whole Time Lord Victorious arc that I don't think anyone read or consumed. But because I think they felt like there was not enough attention paid to it, I guess. So for me, it just doesn't, I like the idea that a human took the power away from him, really like, took the wind out of his sails of like, no, I'm not going to let you change history. I'm going to change it back because I have the power to do that. Which is really great, but I don't think like the Time Lord Victoria stuff. I just don't know what it's trying to say about Ten's arc. To me, it felt like it came out of nowhere. It's never really worked for me. So, for me, I'm going to put New Earth above, Waters of Mars, but I am prepared and fully fine with losing that battle. It's okay. I know I'm in the deep minority on Waters of Mars, but I don't get it.
What's the Time Lord Victoria stuff? What is that?
It was like a big crossover thing where it was like Big Finish.
Oh no! I mean, like in the context of this episode, like what is?
Oh, he shouts it. He calls himself the Time Lord. I am the Time Lord Victorious.
Because
like
he's like railing against like a set point in time. Like he's like railing against his fate or his destiny or whatever. And then like when he thinks that he is victorious, that's when that human character is like, no, like I'm not going to let you do this because I have the agency here. And she like kills herself because she's supposed to be dead.
For sure.
Like, and I think in the I think it's interesting because Ten's Doctor is like he loses so much, and so like this is the thing where he's just like this is the line I'm not going to cross. And I don't think it needs to be like expanded on because he's undercut immediately. Like that's like we don't want to see the Doctor as this vindictive, terrible being. Like we want to see the Doctor as the Doctor, So that's weird that they did that. But I like that I like that he gets to that point, he crosses the line and then is just like realizes immediately like that I should not have done that. And then that's the thing that leads into End of Time, where he goes kicking and screaming, but he like accepts it a little more,
Yeah. It's the idea of like no one's really ready to die until they're dying.
Right. Yeah.
But he makes enough peace with it to make it to the Ood for,
Yeah.
With the lei and the sunglasses and all that.
Yeah. I guess I just think that the extreme like theatricality of the moment is what takes me out of it because it feels so out of character. And so it just doesn't.
So on the other hand,
like you explaining it makes more sense to me than in the context of the episode.
Fair.
So on the other hand, we have New Earth, very iconic episode. very memorable, full of iconic moments, like we said. Or sort of defined the vibe and the chemistry of Tennant and Piper, of Ten and Rose.
I just realized it's his penultimate story and his second story.
Oh,
wow! The power of twos.
Yeah. Wow.
So, and like, yeah, one's super fun and silly, and one is super bleak and dark. So this is interesting. Right. Scott, how are you going to vote?
Yeah, for me, it's going to be New Earth over Waters of Mars. It's just not. I respect everything that it's trying to do, but I don't think it's executed at a level that I would want the story it's trying to tell to be executed. Personally, but yeah,
Gas.
Waters of Mars for me. So you're the tiebreaker.
So it falls to me then. I must choose between an episode that I kind of mostly remembering the vibes and versus I think I've seen. I mean, I don't know what's about 2-3 years since we watched New Earth.
No, that was like 2016.
Okay.
Yeah, like 8 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
Again, just for the sake of it feels weird, not picking of such like a iconic episode, but I think I am gonna have to go with Waters of Mars just to see what happens, how far it can go.
Well, I think Waters of Mars is an iconic episode. Yes. I just disagree with its iconography status, I guess.
Because that's fair. Like, it doesn't work for you.
Yeah.
But I'm a little edgelord at heart, so I like that stuff.
See, there's a dark episode that I prefer more.
That's fair.
Coming up.
Yes.
Yeah. Boomtown. It won last round.
Right. Yeah, right. Yeah, Boomtown. Do you know how dark it is to like want to surf to be a baby?
She kills like 8 people.
It's so
remember that episode? Remember that moment in
right.
Boomtown where she is about to kill someone and then is like, "Oh wait, you seem nice. I'm not gonna kill you."
Right.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's anyway.
So
it's an underrated episode. Okay, so our next matchup is Smith and Jones. Our winner from round 1 going up against Bad Wolf, The Parting of Ways, the Ninth Doctor's final story, and the season finale of series
what was this
1.
episode called, Scott? It was like Killer Game Show or Doctor Who versus the Game Show World.
Game Show World.
Yes.
Yeah, Game Show World! Exclamation point.
Man.
Yeah. So yeah, Bad Wolf, everybody gets sucked into game shows or reality shows and have to get out of it, only to learn that the Daleks are behind everything, and we get a Dalek invasion of a television station, and the Ninth Doctor regenerates because he sends Rose back to London, only for her to use the TARDIS to send her back by sucking in all of the TARDIS energy inside, and it's killing her. And so the Ninth Doctor kisses her, takes the energy in himself, killing himself and regenerating into the 10th Doctor, with the iconic moment of you were fantastic, absolutely fantastic, and you know what? So was I. And then he has zoomies, and then it's 10, and then it's 10. So yeah, that versus the Jadoon on the moon, and the introduction of Martha. This is interesting because I already know, because we've already recorded this episode of Long Way Around. I know that Cass has very mixed feelings about this episode,
yes.
So I'm curious about how this is going to go for you. So please.
I think it's Smith and Jones. Purely on fun factor. And because I like the Daleks a lot. You guys know this.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But I don't know. It was really, really enjoyable watching Smith and Jones this morning.
Man. Can't wait.
And there's probably a lot more aspects to that hold up than what happens in Bad Wolf.
Yes, yeah.
So that
you guys will hear me talk
Nick,
about
what are
that
your
later.
I don't know. Like I'm running on vibes and memories with Smith and Jones because we're going to be covering it so soon from our
Right.
timeline, and Bad Wolf Parting of the Ways, not my favorite Who finale. Had fun talking about it with you guys, but like, I mean, I don't like it as much as Army of Ghosts and Doomsday. I don't think. So like it feels weird picking Smith and Jones because I haven't seen it in so long, but like I do remember that kind of being like we said, like kind of a perfect gateway episode, like a consummate Whovian adventure. But and I'm thinking as I'm talking, listeners, this in terms of RTD vibes, in terms of like what I think of when I think of RTD, planting the Doctor into like mid 2000s reality trash British TV.
Yes.
That is like quintessence of RTD to me. So wow, I don't know.
See, for me, it goes. I love Smith and Jones, but this goes Bad Wolf Parting of the Ways for me, and I think it's because at the end of the day, Smith and Jones is mostly Who vibes. It's like a great Doctor Who episode, but there's not a lot of Russell in there other than, the campiness of the old lady vampire with the straw. Whereas Bad Wolf Parting of the Ways is like a perfect merging of those two things. Maybe not perfect to Cass's point, but it is like you get a Russell T Davies episode and then one of the greatest Doctor Who finales after.
When I think of RTD, even though I voted against it, I do think of stuff like Barack Obama's speech to save the economy and like the master race. And,
but I think all of that stuff is better in this than it is in End of Time. So that's why I'm going to vote for that. So Nick, once again, you are the tiebreaker.
I think I'm going to have to go with Bad Wolf Parting of the Ways on this one.
All right. So let me add that.
But I can't wait to talk about Smith and Jones on Long Way Round.
Me too. That whole season is I'm excited to talk about.
This is a pretty great companion.
Okay. So
Tooth and Claw.
So that brings us to wait a second. I'm trying to fix this. Okay. That brings us to wait, did I forget to write? Oh yeah, I forgot to write one. Wait, did I? Wait. My thing got messed up.
Uh-oh.
What am I missing here? I'm missing something. We did Tooth and Claw over Next Doctor. So, okay, I see what happened. Yeah, I got my thing. As I've been editing this, something got messed up. Okay, so it is Tooth and Claw moving on from round 1 up against Midnight, which is my pick for the best dark Russell T Davies episode. It's our only, like, outside of the specials, it's our only companion light episode, I believe. We get a Doctor Light episode every season, but I don't think we had a companion light episode until this one. And yeah, it's the Doctor. It's another example of Russell kind of trying to do a Moffat script in a lot of ways. In that he's taking a very simple idea of somebody who all they do is repeat what you say, and turning it into one of the scariest things, like existentially horrifying things you've ever seen. I think that it is an improvement on the Satan Pit 2-parter for me, with a lot of the same sort of like cosmic horror existentialism. But I think this is more interesting. And I think it has excellent acting from David Tennant, but also like kind of everybody on this plane that he's on. And I love that Donna, like while 10 is going through one of the most harrowing, horrific experiences of his lives, Donna is on vacation on a vacation planet, which I just that's I don't know. That
it's like that
me.
thing where like you don't see your friend all day at a vacation because you stay at the resort, and then your friend gets back to the resort. And you're like, "How was your day?" And they're like, "Oh my god, I don't even want to talk about
it." Yeah. I love Midnight. It's one of my favorite Russell T Davies episodes of all time. One of my favorites of this era. So for me, it's definitely going to be Midnight over Tooth and Claw. But I want to hear what you guys have to say about Midnight.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what else to add to it. Like Midnight's like an all-timer. It's like I don't Doctor Who is like my exception because I don't like watching horror. So like when Doctor Who gets like really scary, that it I don't know. I enjoy that. And I think the sci-fi premise of being on this like completely silent planet, like stuck in a train and like having to deal with this thing, this consciousness, this entity. Like we still like I think the scariest part of this episode for me too is that like the Doctor never figures out what it is. It's like left open-ended. And like this one's like super good.
Yeah, pretty much everything you guys said. I think we can kind of go ahead and expedite this on to the next round.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. Let me see here. Gummy and oh yeah, paste. Okay. Oh nope, that's not what I said. Yeah. Gummy. There we go. Yeah, good stuff. Okay. So, where does that take us next?
Takes us to partners and rows and turn left, I believe.
Okay.
Yes.
So, rows and turn left. Interesting matchup. So turn left comes right after Midnight. It is the Dr. Light story this season. And for kind of like the first time, the Dr. Light episode is the like one of the most important to the overall plot of the season episodes, which is pretty crazy. But yeah, this is Donna finding out about the spider that's been on her back all season long, and sends her to an alternate universe in which she never met the Doctor.
Well,
yes.
This is one that I revisited because I had no memory of this one. And the bug, like the beetle, is placed there in this episode, and then the parallel universe is like an extended dream,
right? Because
the beetle is like a thing that feeds off of like time energy or something. And which I thought was like really interesting. And I like this episode as an exploration of like what if this character never met the Doctor, and like how like disastrous that is, and like how that underscores Donna's like character arc through this season.
Yeah.
This replayed like a lot better than I remembered it. So like, yeah, no, I was like, oh, this is a banger, actually.
Yeah, no, I've always really loved this episode. It's like a Twilight Zone episode of Doctor Who, you know. But I also just think I think too, it probably plays a lot harder knowing that how important she has been to him up to this point. And now, because of where he ends up in the future with her in his happily ever after, like it just like it adds even more weight to all of that. and really like cements her as Donna Noble as like one of the most important companions we've ever had. So yeah, you could say it's a banger. Nick, thoughts on Turn Left?
I kind of think this one has to beat Rose because it's like kind of what you said about Rose was this was such an introduction or a preview into what RTD intended to do with the companion as a concept. And like, hey, we're gonna get you more invested in this companion's interior life and life before they met the Doctor and who they are as a character and what they mean to the Doctor. They're not just going to be like Sherman to Mr. Peabody. And and Turn Left is kind of like the realization of that because like it's one of the strongest, most a really great episode of the show, but also like kind of the linchpin of this entire series. And it's all Donna. And you never skip this one. You're never like, you don't need to watch this one. It's just Donna. And so it shows up.
So it's like because it's like fulfilling that promise.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I agree. I'm all in on Turn Left.
As am I. Boom.
Okay,
so
great.
Yes.
So our next matchup is round 1 winner Voyage of the Damned versus the 3-part Series 3 finale Utopia, The Sound of Drums, Last of the Time Lords. So I'm just going to preface this by saying I am not going to pick Voyage of the Damned over the 3-parter, but just as you know what? Maybe I'll save that. I'm going to save that conversation. I'm just going to say right now, I'm just going to leave it at that. Okay. The Master 3-parter, I'm choosing that over Voyage of the Damned. What are your thoughts?
This 3-parter is my favorite 10th Doctor finale. I even with the stupid, I love the stupid old potato doctor.
In a cage.
I love. Yes. I love the weird little creepy orbs that sound like children. I like John Sims' master like becoming like kind of unhinged, like dancing to the Scissor Sisters song. Like it's just like it's everything that I love about this show, like both the good and the campy, so yes, I'm also picking that one.
So
Nick?
I did get to watch Utopia last night.
Right.
Did not see the other two, but so what I kind of the vibes I got from Utopia. So in Utopia, Jack pops a ride on the TARDIS and futzes with the TARDIS's trajectory, and they end up on like the far end of the universe. Like the stars are dying. That's why the sky is so black. Humanity is now just like a small base of ragged, destitute, like survivors that have nothing left, and they are attacked by shark-toothed zombie, like rage zombies. And there's a moment where the Doctor and Martha and Jack have made it to the humans like outpost, and they're walking through these narrow hallways, and the humans are all dirty and they're dressed all shabbily, but they're making like soup with a lighter, and the Doctor's like, "Wow, people! You're so inspirational and wonderful, and isn't this great? Hope you can't squash out hope." And I'm like, oh my god, like it really challenged his worldview for me of like, at what point is death better? I'm like, yeah, I'm sure they feel super grateful, Doc. Like but then it made me be like, oh, like it challenged that in a really cool way. And then, it was cool watching this so soon after Bad Wolf Parting of the Ways for me, because it's kind of like, it's Jack getting to know what 10 is about, and 10's like more flirty in this one than I remember him being. And like, but in an aloof kind of asshole kind of way of like, I don't care, who cares, whatever, Martha, shut up. Like, doesn't matter, blah blah blah. So so this was a richer episode, and then Derek Jacobi, a master in his own right. And it's just it's cool to watch this now, knowing so much more about the master, and like I love the audio clips of past masters as he's slowly getting his memories back, and the laughter. So I'm pretty comfortable voting for, even having not seen the other two parts in a long, long time. I'm down to vote with you guys against the one where Titanic happens in space.
All right, there we go. So Master 3-parter moves on to round 3. All right, so our next matchup is Boomtown versus the Christmas Invasion. Christmas Invasion, it's funny, we talked about this in our holiday bracket, because if I remember correctly, the Christmas Invasion did not even move past round 1 in our holiday bracket. And the reason for it was that as Christmassy as it is, a whole lot of nothing happens for most of this.
The Doctor isn't even in it until the last 10 minutes.
Exactly. But then those 10 minutes are so euphorically good that you forget how kind of nothing the rest of it is. So for me, but those 10 minutes are so good. I don't know. I don't know how I'm going to vote. What do you guys have to think about Christmas Invasion versus Boomtown?
I mean, gosh, is Boomtown going to make it all the way to like the semifinals? Yeah, let's do it. I'm gonna vote for Boomtown.
Yeah, on my little worksheet here, I have Boomtown just because like Christmas Invasion isn't my favorite. It's like the Sycorax rock and whatever, that's cool, the sword fight and whatever, but I don't know, I just appreciate the character, the meaty characterness of Boomtown more than the Christmas trappings,
right,
the killer Christmas trees and everything.
Yeah. And it's at like Christmas Invasion is at its best when 10 is in it. I think about the beginning when he crash lands and is like, I had to tell you something. What was it? Oh yeah, Happy Christmas, and then faints. That's
the Lion
fun.
King
and
joke.
Then when he the Lion King joke when he saves them from the Christmas tree before falling back into a coma again. In the PJs, and with Jackie's boyfriend who leaves the orange or an apple in the pajamas.
His pocket. Yeah.
So he has a snack at night. That stuff is great, but whenever David Tennant is asleep, I'm asleep. Yeah. The blood magic stuff is fun, I guess.
Also, what I like about all of us voting for Boomtown is it's kind of cool that a 9 story is making it this far down the line.
That's true. All right. Next up, we have the Stolen Earth, Journey's End, the 4th series finale versus Gridlock. One of the best Russell T Davies one-off episodes. And Stolen Earth, Journey's End, one of the best 2-part Russell T Davies episodes. And it's my favorite of his finales. I would say it is exceptionally satisfying. Seeing everybody together, working around the TARDIS console, seeing a TARDIS piloted the way it's supposed to be, is such a fun moment, and it just feels like such a beautiful tie up of the Russell T Davies era, which is then kind of just all of the air is let out of the balloon with the subsequent specials after that. If it had just ended here, if they had been able to pull all of this together, or put End of Time here and moved this to the replace End of Time or something like that, I think that it would all be a lot more satisfying. But and it also features one of my favorite Russell T Davies trolls of all time, which is the regeneration cliffhanger, which blew my mind watching this in 2008. I adore this. I think that the one thing is that, like, I don't know, Davros just isn't my guy. Like I like the two-parter with like Missy and 12 with Davros. I like that two-part, The Magician's Apprentice or whatever.
Yes.
I like that use of Davros and that, but in this he's just sort of a guy. I don't know. But yeah, like Dr. Donna and all of that. Iconic gif of 10 crying in the rain. There's a lot of really great stuff in this, and it just feels massive. Like, that can't be understated of like how massive this feels, of like, wow, like Sarah Jane Adventures is in this, Torchwood's in this.
Torchwood, yeah.
It's the whole universe that he's created since he's been doing this show, and they're all involved in this finale, and it's very, very satisfying. So really, really love this one. Thoughts on Stolen Earth, Journey's End, folks?
I don't know what else to add to it. Like, it's been a really long time since I've seen this one, but like I agree that the Davros of it all is kind of the weakest part. Especially, I'm actually really interested to go back and revisit it, knowing more about Davros as a character. Because since we've been doing the classic Who thing, but the few minutes with everyone in the TARDIS is like some of the most like joyous like moments in the show, period. And I love that. And I think it's like, it really does feel like, like he's been building towards this with all of the, as much as I rag on Torchwood, like seeing them interacting with the Doctor is like really wholesome, and like the Sarah Jane crew too, so I don't know. Yeah, it's this one.
Yeah, no, for sure. Peak Who, peak RTD. I don't know. You can't go wrong with these two episodes.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, so that knocks Gridlock out as we get the Series 4 finale into the next round. Our final matchup of round 2 is round 1 winner, The End of Time, versus Donna's introductory story, a story we're going to be covering not next season on Long Way Around, but the season after that, The Runaway Bride, the second Christmas special. And yeah. So yeah, this is the Killer Santas, right? Yeah, yes. With the horns. I'm going to go to my co-hosts. Thoughts on The Runaway Bride. Nick, go ahead.
Yeah.
Start us off.
It's fun until the Doctor does a genocide, but
I
mean, this is such a lark, and it just feels like Christmas to me. And this is where the Tennant and Tate comedy team was born, so always got to give it props for this. Yeah, I think this is a pretty easy victory over Love and Monsters, or no, End of Time.
Yeah. End of Time.
End of Time. Yeah.
I can see why you would confuse the two, though. Certainly. Cass, thoughts?
I will say that this episode, I don't think I've ever had, aside from like last Christmas, like when we rewatched that one for the Christmas bracket, because the first time I saw this, I did not like it at all. But I think like this, like yeah, the Doctor does a genocide. But it's just fun seeing like how far the Doctor and Donna have come,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And I, as much as like the emotional weight, like the good parts of End of Time are, I don't know that it outweighs the really campy Christmas ness of this one, you know? This one's hard. I think it's Runaway Bride.
Yeah. I mean, I think that the bullshit in End of Time, if you cut out all the good stuff out of End of Time and you just lined up the bullshit end to end, I think it would make a longer episode than the Runaway Bride. So that means, to me, I think Runaway Bride wins by default. Yeah. But it's also, it's a great Christmas episode. It's probably Tennant's best Christmas episode, objectively, It's got Christmas vibes. There's nothing weird in it other than the genocide. And it also, it begins my long I don't know, my it just begins my complex, like, sadness for Donna, and how much she is I don't know, just like emotionally abused by the world.
Sure. You have a shitty fiance in this.
Yeah, exactly. And just like, like talking about like, yeah, of course I didn't want to marry you, you dumb piece of shit. And I'm like, oh man, like, fuck.
On Christmas?
That's so brutal. Yeah.
She gets a loving, supporting husband and a beautiful daughter and a nice house.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So, it all ends up working out, but it's just like, yeah, no, it's just so interesting because it's like, from a character perspective, it's so interesting with this episode being the beginning of Donna. And this is an episode about how she thought the rest of her life was about to start. And it wasn't. But in a way, it was. And, eventually we get to what is, the rest of her life. And she does get her happily ever after. And it's just, I don't know. It's nice. It's nice to look back at this and just be like, man, you really thought you had it all figured out. And, you hadn't even began. And I like that, Russell is, he took a character that is like, the whole point of Donna, right, is that she would be a background extra in anyone else's story. She is like, the whole point of her is that she doesn't really want that much. She's not that interesting. She's not really that good at anything. And this adventure sort of just like inspires her to start going down a path of figuring out who she is and what she wants out of life. And that's really cool. And that's the kind of story only Russell T Davies could tell, I think. So, gotta go with the Runaway Bride over End of Time.
End of Time, more like shit of time.
And you know what's funny is both in Runaway Bride and the End of Time, in both of those, the Doctor does a genocide.
And how?
Technically
speaking.
It's
a Christmas tradition.
Yeah. All right. Well, that takes us to our the beginning of round 3. And so the way that I want to do this, since we've already talked about all these episodes, I just want to I'll start with you guys and I'll just call on you and you just talk about what your thoughts are on the matchup itself and which way you're going to lean. So starting with you, Nick, the Waters of Mars versus Bad Wolf, The Parting of the Ways.
Wow. So, Waters of Mars, underrated classic, really dark and nasty and like sunshine. Bad Wolf Parting of the Ways, not my favorite finale. The show is still kind of figuring itself out. RTD was still kind of figuring the show out. But you got Weakest Link robot and the Doctor joining
Android.
The
Android.
Android, yes. And then, also, like 2005 era Big Brother. So that's like very much very RTD. So this is a tricky one for me. It's like, I think The Waters of Mars is a stronger episode for me, but perhaps less RTD, So, wow. I think, oh boy. I'm going to go with Waters of Mars.
All right.
I already talked about how much I love Waters of Mars and how it's like my favorite of these, so it's got to be that one. Especially with this matchup. Like I like Bad Wolf Parting of the Ways. I like the things about it that I like. The things that work for me really well. But then there's so much that doesn't work for me. So yeah, sorry, Scott.
Yeah, no, I mean, for me, yeah, it's definitely Bad Wolf Parting of the Ways over Waters of Mars. But I saw this coming. It's fine.
Yes.
So, yeah, but I will say, as it goes out, I have so much love for Bad Wolf Parting of the Ways, and I would say that it is arguably, I'm trying to think of another one. I think it's the best Dalek story in the RTD1 era. I don't know that there's a better one.
Dalek.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, okay, fair enough. Fair enough. Well, yeah, no. What?
Robert Sherman.
Robert Sherman.
Robert. No, there's a Robert in there.
Okay, next matchup is Midnight versus Turn Left. Good Lord, this is a toughie.
Wow.
That's a toughie. Cass, we're starting with you this time.
Midnight. As much as Turn Left I think surprised me when I revisited it this time. Just like Midnight is just like top 5 of all time, like the top 10 of all time like material. And I feel like it's like David Tennant is just like in his element the entire time. Yeah, I don't know. It's Midnight.
Okay.
Oh man, I think I'm gonna have to go with Turn Left just because it is such a core piece of mythology in the saga of Donna and the Doctor, and that feels even richer to me now post Star Beast and Wild Blue Yonder and the Giggle, and it's also kind of It's a Wonderful Life, where it shows what this friendship meant to Donna as well. And yeah, it is like one of the better Doctor. It's so funny because like the Doctor Light episodes are like classic because you have, Blink right there. But yeah, I mean, like Midnight is so cool for all the reasons that I love Waters of Mars. I love how dark and bleak the show can get, and just like genuinely good sci-fi. But just in terms of sheer hooiness, for me, I think I have to go with Turn Left on this one. And so it falls to you, Scott.
God, this is hard.
This is so hard.
This is really hard. Both of these episodes, like I just think they're beloved for me. For all the reasons that you both have talked about. I think that Midnight is, a sort of quintessential one-off episode. And I love those about Doctor Who. It's like one of my favorite things about Doctor Who are the one-off episodes. But as Nick said, Turn Left is such just like the epitome of everything that Russell T Davies was trying to accomplish with the show, which was, I'm going to make an episode about the companion and the Doctor's going to be dead at minute 20. and deal with it. You're gonna love this. You're gonna love her so much that you're not gonna care. And I also think he accomplishes something in Turn Left. I think he improves upon an idea that he introduced in the previous season in Turn Left as well, which I will get to in our next matchup. But oh man, this is really hard. God damn it.
If we're going by caliber of like objective, I don't know, like I guess it's all subjective, but like if we're going by like caliber of the episode, it's Midnight. But if we're going with like the Russell T of it all, it's Turn Left, because of like the just the way that because like everything's there, like the adipose, like it's like all of these things, these adventures that like have happened since like the hospital in the first episode with Martha, like all of these things that we've seen over the course of the show. And like it's like, you know, like the bad universe, you know, like it's the bad place.
The darkest timeline.
Yeah. It just sucks because I love Midnight so much, and I hate that it's getting beaten by Waters of Mars by default. But I don't know if that's a reason to move it into the semifinals. Or finals. No, semifinals. All right, I'm gonna fight Waters of Mars. Waters of Mars's existential dread vibes with its equal and opposite in Turn Left.
So you chose personal vendetta over the purity of our task.
Correct. No. I don't know. I don't know how else to do this. They're like equally good. I mean, like
yes.
that 1-2 punch of watching series 4 and going from Midnight to Turn Left, to say nothing of the Silence of the Library 2-parter that immediately comes before Midnight. Wow. But it's just like that 1-2 punch of Midnight Turn Left is like, fuck. Mm-hmm. It's so good. But I think I'm gonna choose the the more Russell T of the two, and go with Turn Left. Okay. God damn, that was hard.
So does that mean Turn Left is going?
Yes.
Forward. Okay.
Going forward. Yes. So now Turn Left is in the semifinals.
This is a thing that I did not anticipate happening.
Yeah, beating out Midnight. I'm so sorry to my beloved Midnight. Okay. Next up is the Master 3-parter versus Boomtown. Nick, go.
The buck has to stop here. I gotta go with Utopia, Sound of Drums, Last of the Time Lords. Boomtown has been a fun ride. It's crazy you made it this far.
Cass?
Yeah, I agree. It's Utopia and Last of the Time Lords for me.
Okay. All right. So I'm still gonna keep my thoughts to myself on the Master 3-parter. Once again, as it moves on to the semifinals. And there we go. Okay. Final quarterfinal matchup is the Series 4 finale, Stolen Earth, Journey's End versus Runaway Bride. Cass?
Oh, Stolen Earth, Journey's End.
Yeah.
I will be choosing the same.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, I don't know. In good conscience, I don't know how else we could we could do that one. Okay. Series 4 finale. Okay.
So we're in the finals now, right?
All right. Now we're in the semifinals now. So our first of 2 semifinal matchups, the Waters of Mars versus Turn Left. There's so much, there is too much generic shit in Waters of Mars, I think, for it to get to the finale. Like, no matter how good the last 10 minutes of this is, I think the rest of it is so down the middle Doctor Who, basic adventure. Like, you could see it in a very similar thing, and I could probably name 9 classic Who adventures off the top of my head that do this same thing. And I can't name any other episode of Doctor Who that does what Turn Left does, which makes it very special for me. So I'm going Turn Left on this one.
Gosh,
Nick,
it's so crazy because you have on the one hand kind of what Scott said about a previous round, one of the strongest, such a strong one-off episode of the show that is just this self-contained bit of really dark, thoughtful sci-fi that has such a great performance of David Tennant and really makes you realize what a gift it was getting this guy in this role. And how different and darker it is than what you think of. I think of RTD as being very silly and fun and romantic, and this is none of those things. But on the other hand, as I said, Turn Left is such a linchpin to a grander story and is telling such a cool story about the Doctor and what the Doctor means to the world and how important he is, and all kind of checking in with you, the viewer, of look at all the crazy adventures we've gone on since we started this. So wow, yeah, this is hard. This is really tricky. Oh gosh.
Well, let's circle back.
Cass,
let's see where Cass is at.
Okay. So, I think I'm going to surprise you. Because these 2 stories are very bleak for completely different reasons.
Yeah.
The doctorlessness of it, of Turn Left, versus the almost too much Doctor, of Waters of Mars. And I think that this is really difficult for me because I love Waters of Mars, but I am a sucker for what if stories, like alternate universes, and this one, it's such a compelling piece of sci-fi, and yeah, I think it's Turn Left.
Last thing I'll say, how cool it is how this matchup was a story where, like Cass said, we are stuck with the Doctor and there is no companion, and he is our kind of familiar face, but we watch him as he falls short of the expectations that we have for him and the expectations he sets for himself, and how uncomfortable and kind of heartbreaking it is to watch kind of Space Dad become I don't want to die. I'm really cool. Please. And you're oh God, even him, and then Turn Left is this big euphoric, he's the best guy around. What genocides? So I guess I will be the dissenting vote and just vote for Waters of Mars. But then I'm more than happy with seeing Turn Left advancing on to the finals.
Yeah, I mean, I can say I did not see Turn Left
no,
going
I didn't either.
all the way to the finals. But it's cool. That's what's so surprising about this. If I remember correctly, our holiday bracket went in a weirdly similar
last
place.
Christmas made it all the way to the finals, and we were this is
yeah, I think that's right. Yeah. Okay, so the next matchup is the Master 3-parter versus Stolen Earth Journey's End. So here's where I'm going to start, and I'm just going to say that I have the last time that I rewatched the Master 3-parter, I did not like it at all. So I still remember, like, Utopia is still, like, solid, and I think the reveal of the Master and the setup and payoff of the watch, the fob watch, and his subsequent regeneration
bug lady?
from and then the death of the murder of the bug lady, unfortunately. But like the from Derek Jacobi to John Sims. But I really do not enjoy John Sims' Master at all. I find him very grating.
That's so wild.
I'm not into it. I think he sucks. And I think that he was better with Moffat in that Cyberman 2-parter, because he was able to, like, Moffat didn't play to his baser instincts, I guess, as like a very like campy over the top actor, whereas Russell T Davies was like, fucking go for it, man. Whatever you think you're going to do, I want you to take it up even higher. And just like the whole, like, I don't know, like, Joker of it all, that being like kind of in the zeitgeist at that time. It all just, it doesn't work for me. And it really all comes down to just like his performance, which I really, really don't like at all. And there's parts of it that I like the Scissor Sisters thing, which is really big and over the top and ridiculous, but like in a fun, campy way. Whereas like him with the gas mask and the thumbs up, it just, all of that stuff I don't like. And, I don't know, every time he would get super, super manic, I wasn't into it. I thought he was like winning too easily. And then I think that the justification of how they get out of it is just the most silliest when you wish upon a star bullshit I've ever seen in Doctor Who, and I hate it. And it's so funny he could do the exact same thing. We know Russell T loves revisiting ideas and improving upon them. He could do that again in the new series, and it would probably work because of the whole fairy tale legends are real thing, but because it's a set up better. Whereas here, they're just like, I don't know. And I'm like, this doesn't make any sense, guys. And you did not earn this ending. You're just like trying to justify like Martha as a companion, and that you didn't like, mess her up in terms of like her ending as a character. And I do not like Dobby Doctor. It's just not, I'm not into it.
Her last scene though is so good.
I don't know.
Martha's last scene.
That's true. That is true. That is great. But I'm talking more about how she like walks the earth and tells people the story of the Doctor and all that shit.
I don't think I knew this. Yeah. I don't think it, like, I love this show because I like learn things about it.
Yeah. So I hate this. But I will say this. I'll give it credit where credit's due. When this came out, I thought this was the coolest shit ever. I absolutely adored this finale, and I thought the Master was the coolest villain ever. And then End of Time happened, and then I was like, wait, is this weird? And then you go back and you rewatch this, and you're like, oh, it wasn't. That's actually just how he is. He didn't eat as many hamburgers as he does now, but he was just as like manic and clownish and court jestery, and I'm not into it. Give me Sacha Dhawan's Master over John Sims any day. So
wow.
Yeah, that's how I feel. So I am voting Stolen Earth, Journey's End by a country mile on this one.
I mean, I'm gonna, it's not so much as I'm voting against the Sound of Drums, Last of the Time Lords, as I'm voting for Journey's End, Stolen Earth, for all the reasons we've been talking about. I mean, it's like freaking yeah, it's like such a victory lap of the era. It's a better finale than the End of Time. But yeah, I also I'm looking forward to rewatching the Last of the Time Lords and the Sound of Drums, because I remember very little of that, the meat of that episode.
Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff in it. I know there's one conversation in particular that Cass is probably gonna mention.
Yeah.
So there's good shit. But so go ahead, Cass.
Yeah, no, the scene the scene where the Doctor is begging the Master not to die out of spite, and he does so because he's a petty bitch, is like, that's really well done. I'm actually like really interested because I haven't seen it in a while, but I do have like very fond memories of that 3-parter. So I'm curious to see if my opinion shifts whenever we get to it on the show. But no, I gotta rep my baby.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I prefer stories about the Master more than stories about Davros. So
I mean that's fair.
And like
I'll be honest, I wasn't even like considering it as a Davros story now.
That's so
at
funny.
This point.
And
but
Cassie
you're right.
mentioned, you said
totally
like,
right.
oh, we learned so much about Scott, but like,
yeah,
when I think about young Cass watching that scene, but and like, I mean, that's like formative text.
it really is. Yeah, I'm like, why do I like this so much?
Cass finds this very relevant.
That's so
man.
funny.
All right, well, we that brings us to our final round, which is Turn Left versus the Series 4 finale, which is so interesting because it's just like Turn Left is just the
That's
utopia
so
to
because you like prefaced the whole episode being like, I split these up on purpose, and now like lo and behold,
now this shit.
Donna Hive, how we feeling?
Yeah.
Oh man.
Good. Yeah. I probably should have put Turn Left on the same side as the Series 4 finale, so that's my bad.
No, it's
when I built this thing, but yeah. Turn Left versus the Series 4 finale. Nick, what are your thoughts?
I feel like I have to almost vote for Journey's End and Stolen Earth, just because it's like, I don't know, it's weird. It's almost like, I was gonna say it's like picking Fellowship instead of Return of the King, but that's like totally valid,
Yeah, sure.
But like, God, these 3 episodes, like, what a run for RTD as a storyteller, just flexing, just like having so much fun, such a short time after Rose when you really think about it. And it's like, like Cass said, celebration of Torchwood and Sarah Jane Adventures, and in defense of Davros, he does have, and we even talked about it already this season, that incredible line in the midst of Team TARDIS coming together and flipping the switches, and Davros is like, look at what you turn people into, how you turn them into killers, and they're so joyful about it. And it's like, that is a good villain is able to just pierce through a hero's bullshit and find the hypocrisy in them. And it's a very memorable moment.
Yeah. And it like, it's he's stating a 1-to-1
yes
with him and the Doctor. He's saying like, he's saying without saying the fucking bullshit villain.
We're not so different, you and I.
We're not so different, you and I. Yeah. And it's no, it's kind of great. So yeah, Cass, thoughts?
I don't know. I think
We can just count this as a 3-parter,
right? We win. Everyone wins.
Yeah, everyone wins.
Just this once.
I don't know if the tragedy aspect of Donna. Like, because I feel like prior to these specials, the 16th anniversary specials, that is the thing about this two-parter that stuck with me the most. Like,
that punch, that final emotional.
Yeah, like the doctor wins, but he like kind of doesn't. Like he loses, like in the process, he loses his best friend, and so I don't.
Is it like now that that's not true anymore? Does that kind of lessen the impact?
I'm not sure if that lessens it. But I think I should have rewatched them, I guess. I almost did because I just almost let it keep playing after turn left. I'm also like kind of struggling to remember the plot of Stolen Earth specifically. Like, I know throughout the season there's just mention of like planets going missing, but like I don't know if it's like some weird Dalek shit where they like just drive planets. Are they like in a pocket dimension or something?
I think you're totally right. I think they are like a pocket corner of the universe or something.
Yeah.
Because they're about to like collide or something. And...
Yeah.
They're I think aren't they colliding? They're like putting a bunch of planets into a pocket universe.
For Dalek reasons.
For something.
For Dalek reasons.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't remember exactly what it is.
Because like, and I think because I'm like struggling to remember like the plot of it all, like I am going to vote turn left because of how tight it is.
Nice. Yeah.
And I think it's really funny because like going back to like Unearthly Child, right? Where the doctor doesn't even show up until like halfway through the first episode, and we're following like these humans, you know, like the companions. I think that like, you know, we've talked about it already. Like this is like the distillation of that premise where we're like following these people. Like the doctor is like really important and like beloved, but like it's really about these people that he travels with.
For sure.
You know?
Yeah.
So that's my reasoning for it.
Yeah. I think that I think these are both phenomenal episodes, phenomenal stories. But I can't not pick Stolen Earth Journey's End in this, because it's just like, it just feels like such a victory lap for Russell, and it's a victory lap that also like you feel like you're running the bases with him.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't feel like he's doing it and everyone is like awkwardly like standing on the sidelines like, yeah, okay, cool, man. Everyone's like, yeah, let's do it. Let's all go together. It's I don't know, man. It's just really special. And I wish that Moffat had been able to write a finale that felt this cumulative, you know, and he never really got to. And that is for a variety of reasons, you know, mostly what he decided to do with all of his past companions. But it's, you know, it's just, yeah, it's undeniable, like how special I think this story is. And it's so formative, for me in terms of like what I look for in catharsis from finales. And that's hard to deny. So yeah, I gotta go with Stolen Earth Journey's End. But in the end, right, that whole 3-parter basically won. Yeah. So there we go. Stolen Earth Journey's End. I don't know if that's a surprise for anyone listening, but I hope you enjoyed the journey.
I thought it was going to be midnight, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely thought midnight was going to get into the finals. I thought it was going to be midnight versus the series 4 finale. That was my guess. So I'm surprised by how this turned out. But I think, the very valid point is that Turn Left is the epitome of everything he was trying to accomplish as a showrunner. So yeah, it's great. And then he did it. And then he had a victory lap that was really fun right after that. So there you go. All right. Well, that's our bracket tournament. That is episode 400 of The Doctor's Companion. Thanks so much for listening. I severely doubt anyone is still listening to the show that was listening all the way back in episode 1. But if you're out there, holy shit, wow, amazing. And if you're not, well, wherever you started tuning in, we're happy to have you. Speaking of which, the show is on YouTube now. So if you're listening to this on YouTube, hello, welcome to the show. Thank you for finding us. And I hope you are enjoying the backlog of like 122 episodes that we put up there. And all future episodes will go up on YouTube in addition to the RSS feed. That doesn't mean that there's any video. If you're listening on your RSS feed and you're like, oh, it's on YouTube, I can watch them. No. It's just audio, but on YouTube. Some people listen to podcasts that way. So we figured maybe we should let them listen to the show too.
Yeah.
So yeah, everything's on YouTube now. And go to the Discord if you're not. Link should be in the show notes. We have a great community there that I'm proud to be a part of. I don't really even participate in any other social media. I really just hang out on our Discord because it's nice there as opposed to the rest of the internet. And finally, our new season, season 10 of The Long Way Around, will be premiering on February 11th. That's when we will start with the first Doctor story, Planet of Giants. And coming up this season, in season 10 of Long Way Around, we have Planet of the Giants for the first Doctor, the Ice Warriors for the second Doctor, which there is an animated version of this, and that is what we will be watching. But it doesn't appear to be on any of the streaming services for some reason. You can buy it on iTunes, but that's kind of the only option. I don't know what the deal with that is. So apologies everyone who is watching along, but it is out there if you want to get it. For the third Doctor, we have Day of the Daleks, which features whenever I think of the third Doctor, period, the first thing that comes to my mind happens in this story.
Ooh, that's interesting.
Which I am so excited to get to because I think Nick is going to lose his mind. So there's that. The Brain of Morbius, which could very well be my favorite fourth Doctor story. Just because the vibes in this thing are impeccable. It is gothic Frankenstein riff. And it rules. So that is Brain of Morbius. We have Modern Undead for the fifth Doctor, which is the start of like a trilogy of stories. With the sixth Doctor, we are going to go ahead and wrap up Trial of a Time Lord. We did, we were breaking them up into 4-part individual stories, but the final part of Trial of Time Lord is only 2 parts. Which didn't feel like enough material to really do a whole round on. So we're just taking Terror of the Vervoids and The Ultimate Foe and doing like 1 6-part grand finale to Trial of a Time Lord. And so that will be wrapping up our TV adventures for the 6th Doctor. For 7th, we have Ghostlight. For 8th, we have The Time of the Daleks, which is a Big Finish audio. And then we have the first season finales of 9, 10, and 11 in Bad Wolf Parting the Ways, Army of Ghost Doomsday, and the Pandorica Opens and the Big Bang. So lots to look forward to.
And our 12th
really
Doctor
great
story.
Oh, yeah. Listen, which is the 4th story from the 12th Doctor. That'll be Listen, which was it's a fun one to revisit. All right, well, that's next season on The Long Way Around, and that all kicks off on February 11th. So thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you then. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.